Ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 o'clock, July 28th. This is the Carson City Planning and Growth Management Commission meeting. I'd like to call that meeting to order. This is the Growth Management Commission, and would you call the roll, please?
Chairperson Borders,
Present?
Vice Chair Wiggins, here. Commissioner Eswine, here. Commissioner Kilgore,
Here.
Commissioner Lloyd, Commissioner Perry,
Here.
Commissioner Preston. A quorum's present.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Kilgore, will you lead us in the pledge, please? Of course.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Growth Management Commission, including any matter that's not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. Is there any public comment about growth management at this time? No, this is growth management, not the regular planning commission. All right, hearing none, then the minutes of June 30th, 2021 are in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, can I have a motion to accept them?
I move to accept the minutes of June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Perry, motion by Commissioner Eswine. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'd like at this time to remind the commissioners that you turn your mics on with the little mic button on your little screen, not necessarily on the mic itself. In the top right-hand corner, there's a little mic button, okay? Hope you want to say something, or shall I?
I'm happy to do it. We determined this afternoon, we identified a noticing error. Some information was provided in your physical packet that was not on the city's website. So item 6A is removed from the agenda. You will take no action. You will not continue it. It's simply removed. And we will make sure everything's done correctly for August.
Okay. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Growth Management Commission, including any matter that's not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item on the agenda. Is there any other further public comment for the growth management? Hearing none, I will adjourn that meeting and we'll call the Planning Commission to order. Call the roll, please.
Chair Borders,
Present.
Vice Chair Wiggins, Commissioner Eswine, Commissioner Kilgore,
Here.
Commissioner Lloyd, Commissioner Preston. A quorum's present.
Thank you. Members of the public are invited to address the commission at this time on comment on any matter that is relevant to or within the authority of the Planning Commission, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. If you're here to comment on items on the agenda that we're going to discuss tonight, this is not the place for you. You do it at the time of the particular item is called forward. Is there any public, I'm not trying to discourage you, but is there any other public comment? All right. Hearing none, for possible action, approval of the minutes of June 30th, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion? All right. Motion by Commissioner Preston, seconded by Commissioner Eswine. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No. Did I get it backwards? Oh, well, we already know that. Just change. Yeah, we're just gonna change your name. Okay. Item 13A, LU 2021-0216 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request for a special use permit to allow a congregate care facility for residential treatment of substance abuse on property zoned general commercial located at 1807 East Long Street, APN 002-225-01. Heather?
Thank you. Heather Ferris for the record. The subject property is approximately 0.66 acres in size and is currently developed with an 11,500 square foot, 38-bed congregate care facility for the elderly. The applicant is requesting approval to operate a 38-bed residential treatment facility for substance abuse. The facility will allow clients to temporarily reside on-site while receiving treatment. The facility will employ between 12 and 15 staff members, including a cook, a director, licensed substance abuse counselors, administrative staff, and peer support staff. Per Carson City Municipal Code, a congregate care facility is a conditional use in the GC zoning district and therefore requires approval of a special use permit. A special use permit had been approved for the current operation. However, pursuant to the conditions of approval, the special use permit would terminate concurrently with the business license. The business license for the existing facility will terminate upon the sale of the property as the business is closing. Therefore, a new special use permit will be required for the proposed operations of the residential treatment facility. The proposed facility would house a maximum of 38 clients and will provide treatment services for those clients only. The facility will not be open to non-residents. The facility will provide 24-hour staffing, full meal service, planned and coordinated activities, group therapy, individual therapy, trauma therapy, peer support, and aftercare services. Additionally, the applicants plan to offer the option for children to remain with their mothers receiving treatment. One wing of the facility will be designated as quarters for mothers with children. The wing will provide 4 semi-private rooms that can adequately accommodate 8 residents, 4 adults, and up to 4 children. In no case will the maximum occupancy exceed 38. The Planning Commission has the authority to approve a special use permit upon making each of the required findings in the affirmative. Staff has made all 7 findings and is recommending approval, subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report. No public comment has been received regarding this project. I'm available for questions, and Jackie Schott, the applicant, is here and may wish to address the commission.
Okay. Is there questions for staff? Can you say the applicant's here? Hi, back there. Have you read the conditions of approval that the staff has put forward?
Mr. Chair, could we have them approach the microphone, state their name, and answer your questions
Sure.
for the benefit of the record?
Thank you. And also for the benefit of the record and for the other people that are here that are going to testify, I'm sure later on tonight, there is a sign-up sheet there at the desk that we need your name and information on. And we're also going to ask you to please kind of limit your comments to 3 minutes. So we won't be here till 11 o'clock. But yes, sir.
I'm Samuel Douglas. I'm a broker with John Mark Commercial Real Estate Services, representing the applicant.
Okay.
I'm Caroline Basagoitia. I'm the Executive Director of Community Counseling Center near Carson City. Jacqueline Schott with Community Counseling Center.
All right, thank you. And again, have you read the conditions? And are they okay with you? All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, yeah, I'd like to note right now that Commissioner Preston has arrived, and you have a conflict. Would you like to? Yes. Turn your mic on. Top right-hand corner.
Okay. Okay, NRS 281A-42 requires me to disclose a conflict of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. In my professional capacity, I'm the listing agent for the property that is the subject of this agenda item. As a listing agent, I owe certain fiduciary duties to the seller of the property, and I have a pecuniary interest in the outcome of this item. The judgment of a reasonable person would be affected by my commitment in a private capacity and a pecuniary interest. I will not be voting on this matter.
Thank you. I'm sorry to make you do that through your mask. That's okay. All right, are there any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Eswine?
Just for clarification, there will be no day use or day services for this operation? Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes,
Bring it, I'm sorry.
from Commissioner Perry. I would just like to ask you to give us a couple, 3 minute description of the organization and how you run it, what's going to happen at the facility, how you take people in, because I think that would be useful for the knowledge of everyone.
Is your mic on? You need a green light.
Green light? There we go. We've currently been operating in Carson City on the outpatient capacity since 1984. We do substance abuse treatment. We started out just doing substance abuse treatment for many years, and it came to be that a lot of it requires or is co-occurring. So now we treat people with mental health and co-occurring substance abuse together, hand in hand. So we do things such as individual therapy, medication management, couples therapy, substance abuse, basically all things mental health. We've noticed that Carson City is in great need of an inpatient facility. A lot of people need that structure before they're able to work on their lives on an outpatient capacity. So we feel that this would be a good project and that it's something that we could do to help serve the community of Carson City.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, can I get the name of whoever presented?
It's Caroline Basagoitia.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion? Let's see, that's Commissioner Wiggins, right? Is there a second? I'm sorry,
Yeah, public comment on this.
I'm sorry. Is there any public comment on this item? You have to come to the microphone. You all can leave.
I'm all.
You can leave.
Yeah, we can go back there, yeah.
Green button.
Is detox a part of the services that you will be giving?
We will not be doing detox services.
That's all. Thank you.
Please sign in with your name.
And can you
And can
identify
you
yourself, please?
Identify yourself for the record.
I am Peggy Kraus.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to a motion, can we have some deliberations
Yes.
and because I need to start with a question back with Heather. So this was a skilled nursing facility before, and it's changing over to being a residential treatment facility. Did the facility that was there have a conditional use permit for that? And does that go away when we pass
Yes.
this? It does.
So the existing facility obtained a special use permit, I believe, in 93. The way those conditions were approved included a condition for the use to essentially be null and void at the time the business license is vacated. So upon the sale of the property, they're no longer going to be in business. That business license is no longer going to be valid, so they're obtaining their use permit for the residential care facility.
Thank you.
Any other discussion with the group? All right. Commissioner Wiggins?
I move to approve LU-2021-0216 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Kilgore won. All right, any further discussion now? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. And one
One
abstention.
abstention?
One abstention, I'm sorry. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 ayes, one abstention. Item 13B. Discussion and possible action regarding the request for a special use permit to allow for the construction of a personal storage facility adjacent to residential uses to exceed the 14-foot height limitation on property zoned general commercial located at the east end of State Street, approximately 350 feet north of East William Street, APN 002-442-03. Heather?
Heather Ferris again for the record. The subject property is approximately 2.9 acres in size and is currently undeveloped. The applicant is now seeking approval to develop a personal storage facility. The facility would consist of 3-story personal storage building with a footprint of 35,280 square feet and a warehouse building for the storage of portable storage containers. The site plan also indicates 3 future personal storage buildings. However, they have not been reviewed for compliance with the municipal code, and these buildings will be required to be reviewed for compliance if or when the applicant decides to move forward with that portion of their project. Personal storage facilities are permitted primary use in the general commercial zoning district, subject to consistency with the development standards outlined in Division 1.10. Per Division 1.10, storage units that are adjacent to residential areas may not exceed 14 feet in height. The project is immediately adjacent to townhomes to the north and west across State Street. The personal storage building and warehouse facility are proposed to be a maximum of 45 feet in height. Therefore, a special use permit is required in order to exceed that height limitation. The Planning Commission is authorized to approve a special use permit. Staff has determined the applicant will meet all other sections of Division 1.10 of the development standards as outlined in detail in finding 5. The Planning Commission has the authority to approve the special use permit upon making the findings in the affirmative. Staff has made all findings. We did receive 2 comments from members of the public, and those are included, I believe, as late material. The concerns that were cited were impacts to view and noise. As we've discussed at length with many other projects in the past, views are not protected. With regard to noise, personal storage facilities adjacent to residential uses are required to limit their hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. With that, I'm available for questions, and James Mulder, I believe, is here on behalf of the applicant and may wish to address the commission.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Eswine?
Heather, does the 45-foot height limitation apply to the entire parcel, or is it?
14-foot, not 45-foot.
Excuse me. Is the 45, or does the height limitation, does that apply to the entire parcel?
It applies adjacent to, for any properties adjacent to residential
So
use.
it would include the entire parcel?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff? Is the applicants? There they are.
For the record, my name's Josh Tornbaum. I'm the project manager for U-Haul.
All right, Josh, make sure you sign in if you're going to speak to us today.
Okay.
And have you read the conditions of approval?
Yes.
Are they acceptable to you?
Yes.
All right. I was curious about one item, and it was shown in that last elevation that you had up. The second building is only supposed to be a single story. And in all your plans and in all these renderings, it's more than 1 story tall. Would you like to explain that?
That building is a warehouse where we store portable storage, so it would only have 1 floor. It's just we stack them, storage pods, U-boxes is what we call them. and we stack them on top of each other up to 4 high inside the warehouse. And so,
So that building could also be 45 feet tall.
correct.
All right, I think that's somewhat of a misnomer to say single story then.
I believe I addressed it as a 45-foot tall building, however.
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions for the applicant right now?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I have one, couple, because I looked at, your drawing of your building, but it doesn't really show the insides, and I'm trying to visualize how this works. Is this a warehouse-type building where you stack things inside, or does this have 3 floors with little storage units on each floor?
So the larger building that's to the north would have 3 floors with individual storage units, all indoor, climate controlled. And then the building to the south of the parcel would have a warehouse where you would stack the U-boxes. And that's for employees only.
So there would be equipment going in and out of those 3 doors that I see there? Taking these U-boxes in and out, is that what you're saying?
Those 3 doors are on the building to the north, so those 3 doors are actually customer load unload areas where they can pull their truck in and unload all their stuff inside out of the elements of the weather and things like that.
So you actually drive into the building? Someone drives into the building to a
Yes.
storage unit?
They would unload their belongings onto a cart, take it via elevator up to their storage unit to unload it into the storage unit.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'm confused now. The smaller building where you stack the prepackaged containers, that can have a forklift that runs in and out.
Yes, the only thing going in and out of there would be a forklift.
And on the larger building on this elevation we're looking at with the 3 garage doors, that's in essence a loading bay. A vehicle would not drive inside the building, would it?
Yes, it would drive into the
Okay.
bay, but it's just like a garage.
Okay,
So it'd be basically driving into a garage to load and unload.
all right, I got it now. You look like you want to say something.
Yes, good evening,
Please,
Commissioners.
please identify yourself and sign in. Make sure you have a green light. There it is.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Pedra. I am the marketing company president for U-Haul. I eagerly want to get up here to talk, just to kind of clarify a couple things real quick. The interior on the north building, on the large building, the interior load and unload is designed to have cars drive into the building and have the door closed. Our initiative here is to minimize any noise or impact on the outside and kind of contain things to the inside. So the loading and unloading that you see there with the 3 large garage doors is designed to take all of the U-Haul trucks and personal vehicles for customers who are utilizing the building and have them conduct their loading and unloading of the storage facility inside the building, not outside.
Okay.
Additionally, the south building, the warehouse building, is, you can kind of think of it just kind of a clear span warehouse where we will have a forklift that primarily operates inside. Occasionally, it will be on the loading dock, which is located on the south side. The east side of the building. But we wouldn't have a forklift operating throughout the entire facility. It would really just be the loading dock on the east side of that warehouse building and then inside the building itself.
Okay.
So the goal here, learning from many, many years of doing this, the goal here is to minimize the impact of the surrounding area and not have noise issues or high traffic issues and things like that, contain everything to inside the building.
Okay. There are other questions? Mr. Wiggins?
Yeah, this question's for Heather. Oftentimes when we see these heights being exceeded for the typical area, we do something special with setbacks. Could you talk about the setbacks here? Are we just doing the bare minimum, or I know it's 20-foot buffer and a fence, but how far is it to the actual building?
So along the north, it's at least 30 feet. along the north. We also have a requirement for them to include berms and enhanced landscaping along the north and west property lines. Additionally, everything's included inside. One thing I would point out with regard to the height is in the general commercial zoning district, for any other commercial use, it's a 45-foot height limit. The code has a specific height attached to personal storage when it's adjacent to a residence.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant or the staff?
Well, this is for the applicant. Will there be access from your existing U-Haul facility to this site, or will it all be from State Street?
Yes, sir. There'll be a cross easement between the two facilities.
So you could come in through the U-Haul facility and drive right back to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, thank you. Public comment? Now,
Thank you.
please sign in.
Yes, sir. Hello, my name is Matt Peterson. I own 2 properties adjacent to this proposed facility. From what I've seen here and what I've seen on this sheet here, this is a high-activity industrial use, trying to pose as a storage facility. This is a ridiculous monstrosity in the middle of a residential use. 35,000 square feet, 45 feet high. The fact that this project has gotten this far in the consideration process tells me that there's something wrong in the Planning Commission. If these good people purchased in good faith a condo or live in some residential property adjacent to this project, they also trusted in the government, the good government of the city of Carson City, to watch after their interests and to allow a 45-foot tall, 35,000 square foot, bright orange U-Haul facility to exist in the middle of their neighborhood. That's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any other comment? Okay. Commissioner Preston, did you want to say something? It looks like you did.
Well, actually, I'm very familiar with this property. It was Al Schnauzer's property for a number of years. And that property initially, and I was kind of surprised that he's doing this with U-Haul, because I know that he planned on putting in storage units just identical kind of to the ones that U-Haul already has there. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, great. Rather than a whole bunch of little little storage units, one story with a chain link fence and concertina wire on top, you're going to have some nice buildings that actually give us a chance to actually store these things inside, not to see some of these different things. I look at it differently. I look at this as actually being, instead of a sprawl of little bitty storage units and multiple doors and people coming in and out of gates, this to me actually is more appealing. So I just want to say that.
Any other comments? Commissioner Perry?
Yes, thank you. I was trying to find a button to push. Oh, here's a comment out here, so I'll wait till we deliberate.
Lisa Campbell. I'm an owner of the Long Street HOA. Ma'am, I don't know what kind of real estate you live in right now, your house, but I live in the townhome that's closest to their present buildings, okay? And it's two-story, and I have big picture windows on both levels of the house. And I do not want to look out my front window and see a 45-foot building in front of me. And you can put all the landscape you want, you can put in a fence, but my fellow homeowners at Long Street, it was our understanding that that lot was to be multi-residential. It was to have 3 buildings that were to be the townhomes that are like the ones across the street, across State Street, if you will, okay? And now it's like, okay, who owns the lot? And this is what we're doing? And why didn't we hear about this sooner? That's what I want to know. And what about my property value? Yeah, I'd like to know what this is going to do to my property value. The property across the street from us, the newer townhomes with you, if you will, since they've put in, our property value has increased. Now, our buildings were older, okay? But I'm afraid if this U-Haul, this monstrosity in place, is going to drop our property values, and we'll have a problem with selling because there's this building in front of our units. Yeah, we're residential, okay? We're not on William Street where the strip mall is. You know, great idea. Maybe you all should come over and take a look and visualize what it would be like. I already get guff because I live next to a U-Haul, okay? All right, you've already addressed the noise and the inconvenience. There's no driveways on State Street, is that correct?
Ma'am, you need to talk to us.
Sorry, there's no driveway on State Street?
Looks like there's an entrance on State Street, yes.
All right.
If you want to just speak to the commission, if there are questions, you can just go through your list of questions. The staff will take notes on those, and the chair will likely ask the staff to answer your questions, as
Okay.
opposed to a back and forth.
Okay, well, all right. The only other question I had, because I think I've stated my what I want to say, is who owns the lot and what happened to the townhomes that were supposed to be there?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other comment?
Hit the button.
Now, if it's green, no. Oh, you made it red. Push it again. There you
Oh,
go.
okay. My name is Barbara Fallon, and I also have concerns because I live on the same side of the townhouses facing the lot. And I don't appreciate why they have to put the 45-foot project in front of our units. There's 9 of us over there. So 9 different units have to work and look out at those windows or my patio and have to look at Orange. I have a suggestion. Come over, come to 1500 side of the townhouses that face the lot, and you tell me you'd want to look at that every day. That's my problem. If it was the little ones, maybe I wouldn't have any problems with it. But why did they pick our side of the lot for the 45-foot storage unit? I might not have any problems if they moved it, but I'm really upset that it's in front of my place. So I would suggest the planning commission come over and take a look. Figure out 45 feet, which is probably taller than the townhouses.
By twice.
Yeah, because we have 7-foot ceilings, which makes that 14 feet high, and then the roof. So you've got a building taller than us.
It's 4 stories.
Yeah, I know. I really wish they would come and look and see what 45 feet of storage would look like. I'm not happy with it. She's not happy with it. And that's why I'm backing her up. Even though I sent you a notice, a letter, an email, it has changed. Upset. I am very upset. If they change the plans, move the 45 feet, I might reconsider that it's be put there. But why can't it be put on the other end of the lot, behind the stores? I'm done. I'm going to write my name and let you think about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other comment?
I'll turn this off.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Heather explained this, but listening to public comment, I just want to reestablish some things. This zoning is general commercial. It's not residentially zoned. The allowed height in a general commercial zoning district is 45 feet. They could build a warehouse there at 45 feet, and that would not be subject to this commission's review. It just so happens that in the design standards, there's a limitation on the height for personal storage, which I'm not quite certain why there's a limitation on a height for personal storage, but not a limitation on a height for a warehouse yet. That's how the code reads today. And so I just want to make sure the commission and the folks who spoke, because I heard you and I understand the concern, having a 45-foot tall building 30 feet from your property line. But I just want everyone to understand right now that can happen. It's only because the use is personal storage that it's before this commission today, and that you have the opportunity to look at the 7 required findings of fact, to consider the neighborhood compatibility, and to identify any mitigations that might be necessary to achieve that compatibility. Thank you.
Sir, it's not
I know, but I'm just responding to her comment, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, if it's neighborhood compatibility, there are no 4-story buildings anywhere near here.
That was not what she said. What she said was that they could put a 45-foot warehouse in exactly the same place.
Right.
And because it's called a warehouse and not a storage facility, you wouldn't even be here.
Right, so.
That's all.
I suggest you downzone it. 'Cause all
We
these
cannot
people would
do
have
that.
the same problem.
We cannot
with
do that.
Putting a giant industrial building in
All
front
right.
of their property.
Are there any other comments?
Microphone, please.
Can one of the U-Haul guys come back a minute? I have a question.
I got a question for staff real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Heather, are you gonna let them paint this thing orange?
So, no, the design standards don't allow for that, except for accents of brighter colors. I believe this is the rendering they provided. what they move forward with needs to be in substantial compliance with what they've provided.
We have no.
Identify yourself again.
Chris Pedra, for the record. We have no intention of painting the building orange.
All right. When you originally looked at the site and looked at the site plans, it looks like, and I hear what they're saying about, there's 9 townhomes in a building that's principal entrance faces your storage area.
Yes, sir.
Did you think about flipping this?
Yeah, we did originally, and honestly, and Mr. Mulder can speak more to it, the water retention and drainage requirements kind of prohibit that. So we were trying to, in having that in mind originally when we first started to design the location, that was our first thought. But then as the calculations and water retention and drainage kind of became a part of it, because it runs alongside from the strip mall in front, kind of out to William Street, it's prohibitive to put the building on that side. But that was our first plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there any other questions for anyone?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes, this is one for the planning department. When was this property zoned commercial? I see in the master plan, it's mixed-use residential. Do you have any idea? I was looking at the history of it here, and it looks like the last thing was 2019 when it was looked at for single-family attached homes.
Right. I don't know for sure. I would say probably at least since 2006 or 2007, but that's just a guess.
Is it contiguous as the same APN number as the existing U-Haul, or are these separate parcels?
They're separate parcels.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, group? Commissioner Esselstyn?
Could you put up the aerial photo again, please? What's the setback from the existing units to the property line?
The existing U-Haul units?
No,
or
the existing
homes?
homes.
I believe, and maybe Mr. Mulder can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's minimum of 30 feet. I can't read it on that screen.
I didn't see it on any of the plans.
It's 31 feet, 11 inches.
Which plan are you looking at there?
Sheet A11.
And Heather, what's the setback from those townhomes? That'd be a side yard setback, wouldn't it?
The setback for the townhomes? I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, so it's 31 feet.
So in reality, it would be 60 feet between the facade of the existing residential and the facade of the new construction.
No, I don't think that's right.
No,
think it's-
maybe, perhaps I misunderstood your question.
The setback for the warehouse is 30 feet on that property. so
Right, but what about the
Houses
townhouses?
are- it-
I don't have that in front of me.
It looks like about a 10-foot setback.
We're going to measure it
I
and
had
get an
to guess.
idea.
So it's 40 feet.
It's 19 feet, give or take.
Okay,
That's
so
using
the
the
total is
GIS
about
tool.
40 feet. to answer Commissioner Eswine's question.
It's more than 40 feet.
Yeah,
50 feet.
50 feet. Okay. All right. What's the pleasure of the group? I think.
Well, it's there's a couple of things here. I think I look at it, and I looked at it on the master plan map, and I'm just sort of, speaking out loud here of other sites in the city that we've dealt with where there's commercial up against residential, right? And it's sort of in this area, jots around, because those newer units were built off to the west of State Street. And just so the lady that was up here earlier knows, most all of us do go out and we all look at these. I walked it, several days ago, right along the backside of your place there and the lot itself. And there's always, conflicts when commercial or any kind of thing like that is next to residential, when somebody actually goes to build something on what was bare land, an open space. I understand, the concern there. It sounds like there's, a fair amount of space to the back of the building there, and there are design criteria for the building itself. And one of the questions I think you asked, Mr. Chairman, and that was, can you switch these around? Because I heard somebody say, put the big building on the other side of the lot and the small building. And you said you had reasons of why you didn't want to do that, because that would certainly satisfy some of the folks here.
Yeah, it was drainage and water retention, because it actually ties into to the east of the strip mall as well, the drainage as it works its way to William Street.
Those are really my only comments. It's a piece of unused land that's infill, and it has a business next to it that wants to expand. It's retail out on the highway there, and although it was in the master plan as mixed-use residential, at some point it got zoned as commercial in there, and it sounds like it's been commercial for some time there. So, and this is an allowed use in the commercial zoning, so those are just my thoughts, trying to think out loud so that people can understand the process.
Well, the height limitation, according to
Before we're at deliberation right now, we're the council
I don't know how all
people.
this
Okay,
works. I just know that there's a lot of people here who want to get heard.
I understand.
The problem isn't the use.
Well,
It's the fact
this
that it's
problem
north
is,
side
the
feet
problem
tall.
is this is not a discussion back and forth, okay?
Yeah, well, I get that, but there's a lot of people here who live right there who want to be heard.
They've been heard.
Mr. Chair, I can't record his comments.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, those are all that I had to say on the matter. I don't know if other commissioners have some thoughts here or any magic that they can think of.
Well, I think it would clearly be better for everyone if we could flip the buildings. But if it's not possible, it's not possible. So, unless we go into a whole nother thing about stormwater drainage and everything else, and I don't want to go there, so. Is there a motion? All right.
Sorry.
Turn your mic on, please.
Was green.
Okay, I move to approve LU-2021-02.
I keep doing it. Here. Oh, that was there. Okay. Okay, I move to approve LU-2021-0219 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report. And can I add on something?
Sure.
That it will not be an orange building.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Who knows? Commissioner Eswine, and Commissioner Kilgore.
And, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, just for clarification
Yes.
on my vote, I mean, I understand that it's a commercially zoned property. I just am concerned about the design of the project. And I know that we don't necessarily approve designs, but I think that would behoove the applicant to reconsider the siting of the project.
Okay.
Just want to be clear, mine is based completely on what I feel is best for the community because it's them at ground zero.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. Item 13C, discussion and possible action regarding a request for a tentative subdivision map known as East Nye Lane to create 61 single-family residential lots on a 17-acre parcel zoned mobile home 12,000, located east of Otis Street and west of Debbie Drive, between East Nye Lane and College Parkway, APN 003-232-01. Heather?
Thank you. Heather Ferris again for the record. The applicant proposes to subdivide the 17-acre parcel to create 61 single-family residential lots with a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet and an average lot size of 8,477 square feet. A total of 6.6 acres of common open space will be provided, and each lot will have private yards in excess of 4,000 square feet. The applicant is seeking to utilize the provisions of Municipal Code 1710, the Common Open Space Development. Common open space developments must comply with the allowable density of the base zoning district, but they may have flexibility in lot size, lot width, and setbacks. The allowable density in the mobile home 12,000 zoning district is 3.63 units per acre, and the applicant is proposing 3.59 units per acre. The overall design concept is the creation of lots that range from 8,000 to 11,776 square feet. The subdivision is proposed to be accessed via a looped road with access at 2 points on East Nye Lane and a gated emergency ingress and egress onto College Parkway. The internal roads will include a 50-foot wide right-of-way with a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street and on-street parking on one side of the street. A minimum of 2 parking spaces per lot will be provided via a standard 2-car garage and a minimum 20-foot-long driveway. Setbacks will be consistent with the mobile home 12,000 zoning district, so you're looking at 20 feet in the front, 10 on the sides, 15 on the street side, and a 20-foot rear setback. Of note, all lots will front the internal street system, therefore the rear setback is the setback that may impact adjacent developments the most, so you're still looking at a minimum of 20 feet there, which is consistent with the MH12 zoning district. So future homes will not be any closer to the adjacent development than if we use just the base zoning without the common open space development provisions. For the standard conditions for common open space development, the project must provide for adequate screening and buffering of existing and potential development adjoining the proposed project. For the east, west, and south property lines, this will be a privacy fence or wall, and for the north boundary, a sound wall will be required consistent with the development to the east of the project site. We did receive 4 comments from members of the public. They were provided to you in your packets and as late material. The concerns cited were traffic density, necessary road improvements, proximity to the airport, and the types of homes proposed. The applicant provided a traffic study, and as a result, staff is recommending improvements to East Nye Lane along the property frontages. Regarding the types of homes to be constructed, the applicant has indicated that they intend to construct modular homes with 2-car attached garages. Staff did reach out to the airport for comments regarding the project. Included in your late material is a memo from staff outlining modifications to the conditions as a result of the airport's comments. Condition 21 would be modified to read As part of the site improvement permit, the applicant must provide a landscape and irrigation plan demonstrating compliance with the applicable sections of the development standards in Division 3. Due to the proximity to the Carson City Airport, the types of trees allowed to be planted on site shall be limited to those with mature height of 35 feet or less. This limitation shall be included in the CCNRs. And condition 31 would be added to read, prior to recordation of the final map, the applicant shall execute and record an navigation and noise easement granting the Carson City Airport and Airport Authority the right of overflight in the airspace above and in the vicinity of the subject property, and recognizing the right to create noise or other effects associated with the lawful operation of the aircraft in such airspace. The applicant shall coordinate with the Airport Authority regarding the specific language in the document. Also included in that memo, staff is requesting a modification to condition 18 to specify the screening along East College Parkway to be that sound wall that I described. The Planning Commission conducts a public hearing and advises the board if the proposed tentative map is consistent with the provisions of Municipal Code and NRS 278320. Staff has made all findings in the affirmative and is recommending approval, subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report and modified with my July 27th memo. I'm available for questions, and I believe Karen Downs with Manhard Consulting is here on behalf of the applicant, and I believe she is here to address the commission. But first, I think I'll hand it over to Stephen, and he can address a couple of the comments that we received as well.
Okay.
Stephen Pote, for the record. Thank you, Heather. So there's just a few items that I want to draw attention to. One is the requirement for half-street improvements along East Nye Lane. As the commission knows, that's a pretty typical condition of approval. However, with the shape of this parcel, it's a unique situation where we have two rather short frontages with a adjacent parcel in between. So there's that condition actually gives the applicant an option. So they can either do half-street improvements, which include half-street paving, or alternatively, they could not do the paving piece of it and instead connect the sidewalk, curb, and gutter between those two frontages. The reason for that being that we saw that as a better benefit to the city, having that continuity of both the curb and gutter and the sidewalk along that frontage rather than just the two very short segments of improved roadway. The other thing I wanted to draw attention to is the traffic impact study recommends restriping the intersection of Airport and College. Staff did not condition that, the reason being that without the proposed striping, which is proposed to facilitate left turns onto College to make those easier, without that restriping, that intersection still meets appropriate level of service. And due to the proximity of a driveway to the west, there's insufficient space to do that correctly. So that's why we're not requiring that. And then one last thing is you may have noticed a very narrow parcel on the west of the subject property. That is a parcel that was created with the subdivision to the west. I believe that was originally intended to be right-of-way or something of that nature, but was never improved. Because it was created with that subdivision to the west, this subdivision is not in a position to be able to abandon that. Otherwise, we would have pursued that. It would actually require the adjacent homeowners to the west to accept that abandonment. Each one would have to approve it in order for us to move forward with that. So unfortunately, we've kind of inherited that little stripe of land, and what the eventually becomes of that will be determined in the future.
The city owns that strip of land?
I believe so.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
For Heather, I see in the write-up on this that the property, the parcel's actually zoned for mobile home 12,000 currently, correct?
That's correct.
And this tentative map has the lot sizes at somewhere in the 8,000 to 8,500 foot range. So does this require a rezone?
No, this is not a rezone. 1710 of the municipal code allows for what's called a common open space development. In exchange for providing common open space throughout the development, consistent with that code section, the applicant is provided with flexibility on lot size, setbacks, lot widths, but not on density. So while it is a smaller parcel that they're putting forward than the 12,000, they are consistent with actually a little bit lower than the maximum density allowed in the zoning district.
So if you divide this, what is it, 61 single-family residential lots, and over the parcel itself,
Right.
not looking at what is a lot and what is open space, they are actually above 12,000 square feet.
Yeah, so the allowable density in the MH12 zoning district is 3.69 or 3.63.
Okay,
And the density of this project is 3.59 dwelling units per acre.
okay, thanks.
Heather, the access to East College Parkway, that's gated, that's a
Gated,
quote,
emergency
quote,
ingress,
emergency exit only?
ingress and egress only. yeah.
Okay. When the sound wall comes up to that gate, how, is it gonna be an actual gate? What's the mechanism there? Do you have any idea?
So I
Or should I
believe,
ask the developer?
I believe at this point, we're going to leave it up to the fire department at the time that site improvements come in
Okay,
to make sure that it meets whatever requirements he has.
okay. That's right. This is a tentative map, right? Okay. Any other questions for staff? The applicant's here? There she is.
Standing room only tonight. Evening, Chair and members of the,
You were right.
I'm on, okay. Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Karen Downs, and I'm with Manhart Consulting. I'm here representing the applicant on this project for East 9 Lane subdivision. Heather did a great job of summarizing everything, so you have that PowerPoint we can just go through, and
Are you familiar with the conditions of approval,
I am, and we agree.
including the amendments?
Correct,
Okay, and you have no problem with those?
correct.
Okay. Could you answer my question a little bit about that access onto East College Parkway
Sure.
and what it may look like? I'm assuming we're going to continue the same CMU wall and the basic same design
Correct.
on that property line, which is wonderful. I think that's a good idea. I'm just wondering how you propose to treat that gated area.
So we don't have a specific gate in mind, but it would be in accordance with the fire department recommendations. So we
Okay.
worked with the fire department on the type of access that they wanted there, signing and striping, and then gate type would be up to fire department as well.
Okay, okay. So you don't have anything established yet with them?
No.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Perry?
Yes.
You always have a question for the
Okay.
applicant.
Just looking at your pictures of what I guess the developer, if this is successful, intends to try and build their
Yes.
modular homes of some type, right?
Correct.
So I have several. Number one, because, there's fences all around there that, from people who have backyards that butt up against this. And it's kind of a mix of different type of fences. Will there be a requirement for fences around the perimeter when these new homes are built that are up against the existing single-family homes?
Yeah, there's a condition in there for privacy fencing along the perimeter.
Okay, what's privacy fencing?
Just your standard
Like
wood
solid wood
fence.
fencing?
Mhm.
Okay.
for
Okay.
screening.
And this is one for Heather. Sorry, I'm going through my list here of notes. Where's the nearest park to this area where kids can go and play in the city?
I don't know that I have that answer off the top of my head. Maybe Stephen can help me and pull up GIS.
How far away is that?
It's on the other side of College Parkway behind the vacant Kmart or Walmart, whatever it used to be.
That's about 3 miles.
Is it 3 miles? Okay, sorry.
I guess I just comment if it's that far of a distance, my only question is in this part of the city, from a planning perspective, seems like we need some playground parks if it's that far away for kids to go.
So on this, each lot will have its own yard.
It will, okay.
Yeah, each private yard. Minimum, let me see. The minimum on the smallest lot, the smallest 8,000 square foot lot, the minimum, what's required is 250 square foot of open space, and what we're providing is 4,280 square feet.
Okay, thank you. And sidewalks along Nye Lane are required here, right? Because there aren't any sidewalks along Nye Lane that I could see in there anywhere. So this would at least start that, huh? Because it was developed without sidewalks in the past.
Correct. That's a condition in the project.
That's it, thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. Questions or comments from the public? Please come forward. You have a green light. No, now you have a red light. Now you have a green light. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Norma Sanchez.
Okay. Norma, when you get done, would you please sign that sheet in front of you?
Yes, of course. I am live just in front of the project. I'm living in the corner to the main flower and 9th Street. So I sent my question by email. And my principal concern is the safety. So I hear so good points. I am very grateful about the road. For 10 years, I have a problems in the 9th Street. Is many people take this road like with a high speed, including the College Parkway. This project can be so good, but just I want to be sure the safety for the neighbor. Is the road, the 9th Street is the bus route. Is another point, the safety for the children's. I can see too many prevents the speed in this street. And the airport street is another problem too. I don't know how I can express to my interest to all the 61 new neighbors in this area. It's gonna be very high traffic on the College Parkway and the 9th Street. Okay? So just I want to be sure, considering the measure of the street. Because some people gonna park in front of my property, in the sidewalk, and the distance for traffic in both sides, and sidewalk in front to the project. Okay? This is concern to me because I'm living just in front of this project. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments? Yes, ma'am. We have an empty place. Please identify yourself, sign in, and make sure you have a green light.
Okay, I've got a green light. I will definitely sign in.
Okay.
My name is Cricket Von James, and I have the property that's on the corner of Nye Lane, and where this property is going to be built is right across the street from where my house is. The concerns that I have are definitely about the traffic, just as this lady had mentioned, because we do have high-speed traffic. I actually have a Ring camera and have worked with law enforcement to try to reduce some of that because of the concerns with the high speed going back and forth. So what I would request is maybe there's consideration to have a speed bump or some kind of speed control with having that many houses built on that, in that particular area. It especially concerns me that all of the exits, other than an emergency exit, is going to come down Nye Lane. So with that traffic control study that was done, I would hope that the consideration would be to have curb and gutter sidewalks for the entire portion of that section of Nye Lane, not just for right in front of that property, but actually consideration to build that out a little bit better with speed control would be something that I would like to see considered. The other thing that I'd also like to have considered is in looking at the proposed plan, the construction is going to be going on between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. So possible consideration that maybe the weekends are not allowed to have that construction so that we can have a little bit of privacy in that residential area while all of this construction is taking place. And then the other thing is the water control. So I do have a lot of houses. I have a stick-built house. I have a lot of trees, I'm sorry, and I have a stick-built house. So one of the things that I've worked with the water department is the lack of pressure, water pressure. They've come out and tested it many, many times. We've had to adjust quite a bit because of the sediment, because of the lack of flow, and I know that they've just improved some things, but I would hope that maybe there's some consideration with having this many properties built in this area, that we really take a good hard look at the water usage that that's going to require. Even though they're small properties, all the properties do use water. And so that's a consideration that I would have as well that I'd hope you'd consider. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Same routine, sir.
Hello,
Green light, sign in, identify yourself.
My name's William Dixon. I live on the northeast corner, second to last resident. It's listed as Dixon. I don't have a pen to write. And so one of my concerns is the density of the homes. I have 2.5 properties along the backside of my property. I moved in just over a year ago. I bought the home, and one of the reasons I bought the home, or one of the things or benefits of the home, I have a perfect view of all of the Sierra from my back deck. Now, I knew that a development would eventually go in there. I didn't know that it would be almost double the density of our properties on both sides of that land. So most of the homes bordering the property have two to three houses that are going to be built behind their properties. So I would much more appreciate it if there were, maybe cut down some on the homes so that there were less blockages of the view. That's one of the best parts of my property is the view. The other concern is the operation hours, 7 to 7. 12 hours is a long time to be working behind people's homes, and then the weekends also. The other concern would be, the type of, so the lady said that the privacy fence, it would be wood, so the height of that fence would it be a normal, 6-foot fence? Okay. And is that going to be set back from our current fences?
Well,
that's a question.
we'll get it answered for you.
So I think I saw that there was a utilities easement of, I think, 5 feet. And I don't know but how far the residence fence will be. And I believe that's all I have. I don't have a pen to write. Oh, there
There it is.
So
It materialized. Are there any other comments? No, you had a green light. There you go.
So my name's James Gotchi, and I'm adjacent to the project. And I've got a lot of questions about the issues of East Nye Lane. You say that you're going to build it out to the center of East Nye Lane. What about the south side of East Nye Lane where there's a drainage ditch the size of a regular irrigation ditch running the whole length of East Nye? So that's going to have to be filled in with a drain pipe and finished over. And there's telephone poles that run along there that look like it's from a cable company, so that makes the road more narrow there. So East Nye Lane needs to really be renovated and widened with sidewalks on both sides. And you're talking about safety. A lady went off the road about 10 years ago on the east side of East Nye Lane, way down on the other side, and was killed when she went into that ditch. It's not a small ditch. It's the size of an irrigation ditch. So that has to be removed. Now, nobody's talked about the mini market down in the corner of Airport Road and East Nye Lane. You've got a huge parking problem there. You cannot exit those businesses without backing your car right out into the center of the street. So you have a mini market and a head shop down there. You're going to have some kind of a traffic light down there, and then that's going to have to be restructured so that people can get down there and get through that intersection and out. The way it is now, it's not going to work. You're going to have a huge problem down there. I don't know who's going to want the lots down there by the runway, but the runway is right next to the, could you put the runway up there? Is right across the street from East College Parkway, and I don't know who's going to want to be living there. That's where the, I don't see it there. That's where the jets land and where they take off, right at that zone right there. Yeah, there's the runway right there. And they want access to fly over that property. Now, why do they want that? Well, I've seen airplanes taking off from the north and flying over that property to the south. So there must be some kind of runway over there where they can take off that way. So is that what the airport wants? They want to keep that access to be able to take airplanes and fly over that lot? So I don't think that's a good idea to have airplanes flying over that that area. Most airplanes take off on the regular runway, but there is a runway that runs north and south, and they fly over that lot when they take off. If you have 60 new homes in there, you're going to have 60 cars leaving in the morning and arriving back at night. And you're going to have a lot of traffic. You're going to have to do something with that Airport Road and East Nye Lane intersection. And you're going to have to do something about the parking at the mini market and the head shop, because when they park in there, they can't back out unless they back right out into the center of the street. There's no room in there. So that's going to have to all be redone in there, renovated in there, and maybe some parallel parking next to the mini mart for that to work.
Sir, I understand that you're concerned about Nye Lane, but this project is not to rebuild Nye Lane.
Well, this is only 100 yards from there.
But it's not the developer's problem to rebuild Nye Lane.
So is the city going to redo it so that they can handle the traffic? Because there's going to be way too much traffic. Unless East Nye Lane, it has to be redone on both sides throughout that.
intersection.
All right.
And like the other lady was commenting, people, race up and down there. You're going to have some police up there. But right now, there's no police around there ever.
Is that it?
No. Who's going to pay for the reconstruction of East Nye Lane? I read here on page 12, there's going to be some kind of a, there's
Sir,
going to
the
be a
construction,
tax.
the construction and repair of East Nye Lane is not an issue that we're discussing tonight.
Yeah, but you've got an irrigation ditch running down the side of it.
It may be, and you may be 100% correct, but that's not why we're here tonight. We're here tonight to talk about this particular piece of property and the requirements that the city's going to put on them to get approval for their particular subdivision, not the reconstruction of Nye Lane.
So where does that come in? Because it won't work the way it is now. You talk about safety,
I don't have an answer for you. So I
so
can't-
somebody's going to have to redo East Nye Lane, right, where the subdivision is there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, let's ask Mr. Pote what the status of Nye Lane is. Are you familiar with it? Is it a minor arterial route? Is it, I did notice, that it seems like it's built more narrow than many of the streets, but can you talk about what are the city's plans for that? I mean, maybe that would help alleviate some of the concerns.
Well, on the south side of it, there's an irrigation ditch.
Let's let the city engineering department here answer the question. Thank you.
East Nye Lane is a minor collector. Just based on GIS, a quick measurement, it looks to be about 22, 23 feet wide in front of the project, which is not to the city's standard width. I don't know if the city has any plans in the near future to do work on East Nye Lane.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to get this gentleman's information and have the city's transportation manager reach out to him.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's a residential construction tax that's going to be assessed. Is that going to be assessed to all the homeowners in that subdivision or just in the new project?
Sir, your time has expired. Do you have anything else to say?
Does it matter that it's 100 feet, not 100 feet from the airport, but 100 feet from the runway?
No?
Those would be the least desirable lots and the most dangerous.
Sir, you've said all this before.
So on this fence they're going to build around the project, it's just a 6-foot-high wooden fence? Not any kind of concrete? I would think you'd have a concrete wall at the north end of the project to protect.
Sir, it's already been said 3 times that we have a concrete wall at the north end of
Oh,
the
okay, I
project.
didn't hear that.
Do you have anything new to add? It seems like you're going over the same things over and over again. We have all these people here that would like to also testify on another project, and
Okay.
okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to comment on this particular item? Okay. Heather? The one thing that occurs to me, number one, is that's in an airport control zone, so the airport has the right to fly over that property.
Right, and I consulted with the airport.
Yeah.
And the proposed conditions that I provided in my memo address their concerns.
Yes. And I don't know that it's unreasonable also to ask that they not work on Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unreasonable? No, the condition is our standard condition out of the
Yeah.
code. If you feel that it's necessary to further reduce that,
Okay.
then we can consider that.
You want to try and answer some of those other questions?
I'm going to leave the traffic stuff to Stephen to
Okay.
address. And looking through my notes, if the planning commission chooses to, we can modify that condition to limit construction just to Monday through Friday. The density of the homes, so the density is consistent with the mobile home 12,000 density. The setback of the fencing, so there wouldn't be any setback from the property line for the fencing, so it could be fence to fence, essentially. Typically, what you're looking at is a 6-foot wood privacy fence. Although if they chose to build a wall, we could allow that as well.
Now, the easement that's on the east side, their fence would run on their side of that easement. So there's a possibility for a 5-foot alley there.
The easement that's on the west side?
I'm sorry.
The west side?
The other east side, the west side.
Yeah. Yeah, so there would be the possibility of an alleyway there, yes.
Would it be possible for the, no, I'm not going to go there. Thank you.
And I think that addresses all of the issues that are not traffic related. If I missed
How
something.
about the water?
I'll kick that over to engineering
Okay.
as well.
Stephen Pote for the record. So the items that I have here from public comment are the speed of traffic on East Nye, road width, pedestrian safety, including requiring the extension of that sidewalk along the entire frontage, including the neighboring parcel, water pressure, the drainage ditch, and then parking at the mini Mart Airport in East Nye. On the speed of traffic on East Nye, that is not a concern that the transportation department had at the time we were reviewing this project. I know that typically they prefer to utilize the police department first, the sheriff's department, to try to enforce the existing posted speed limits before trying to implement other traffic calming measures. So after this meeting, I'll notify the transportation department of that, and I'm sure they'll reach out to the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Road width, the road does not meet our standard, which is why we're requiring frontage improvements. And so our municipal code dictates the ability for us to require frontage improvements. It's pretty specific there in terms of requiring a half-street improvement. So that's why we're not asking for the entire street or the entire frontage. We did, because of that, open up for the option of extending the sidewalk along the entire frontage, including that neighboring parcel. But that is why we didn't make it an outright requirement, is just because that would contradict the code. And we felt that there should be some wiggle room there. And again, we agree that that would be the ideal situation, is to have the sidewalk extended all the way for pedestrian safety. It is noteworthy that there's a pretty wide shoulder there, so the areas that are not improved, there's a pretty wide shoulder where cars can park and people can walk. As far as water pressure, the water main through this subdivision will be looped up to College Parkway through that emergency exit. So that does improve the water system. I can't guarantee that that will affect pressure, which is what somebody from the public was concerned about. But that does provide redundancy and improves the system. On the drainage ditch, I'm confident that that's draining more than just this property. So while this property, the drainage is going to be staying on the north side, they're installing a drainage pipe as well as curb and gutter. So that drainage that's coming off will remain on the north side of the street. But that drainage ditch on the south side will still be serving other areas of town. And then again, as was stated earlier, the parking at the corner of Airport and Nye was outside of the scope of this review. We're looking at the level of service. We do look at safety concerns. But again, since that's an existing commercial use, really in order to mitigate that safety concern, it would require some sort of permit with that facility. So I think that's all the
Okay.
items that we had.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
I do have one for staff, because I think this was one other question that a gentleman earlier brought up, something about a residential construction tax, which I've never heard of, but I think it probably needs answering.
So the residential construction tax is applied to any new building permit that comes forward
So that's for a new
for a
building,
single-family residence.
but it doesn't apply to the people around it.
No.
Okay, thank you. I think that was his question. Thanks.
All right. Commissioners, is there any further discussion?
Were we, excuse me, Chairman, were we going to add the special conditions?
Yeah, I just lost them. But yes, what about the start time? Is there any?
This is Commissioner Perry here. I think somebody mentioned Monday through Friday with what's in here on item 9 of the conditions, 7 to 7. Another alternative could be Monday, Friday, and 7 to 5 Saturday, and not on Sunday at all. I've seen that one before.
Was that your motion?
I think, no, I haven't made a motion yet.
I see.
And I know that it is not relevant, directly to this development, but I mean, I heard a fair amount of concerns about, and I appreciate city staff trying to answer some of those, and Heather and Hope. But I think there's some of the residents around this have some concerns about Nye Lane, maybe not directly, that this development is going to add to some of those. And then I heard that Nye Lane is not built to a city standard. But I just wonder if there's some mechanism by which the planning department and the developer and the residents could meet and talk about some of these things outside of the planning commission, because I realize it's not that, but it just seems like there needs to be some dialogue out there.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
We need to look at the nexus of the project against the mitigations. So recognizing there are issues on Nye Lane, including speed of travel, there's the ditch, so on and so forth. We all heard that testimony. Unless you can identify something in the findings related to this project that's before you that necessitates a mitigation that addresses a much larger area, we can't condition this development. That there wouldn't be a nexus. I've already reached out to the transportation manager, and asked her to follow up with some of the residents. So I think we have some baseline issues that, regardless of this project, exist today, and that the city can look at. But I just want to be careful that we're not overburdening the project when there's not a logical nexus, because they're not causing the impact.
Well, I think what Commissioner Perry was saying was that outside of this particular item, it's becoming clear that Nye Lane is a problem, and can we work on it?
If that's the question, the answer is yes, and we've already started because we've
Okay.
already reached out. I just don't want to muddy the waters with this development, that's all. So I apologize if I misunderstood.
I understand. And yes, those were my thoughts, is not burdening this project, but when we find an issue out because we're having a public meeting, we need to address it somehow with some mechanism so that all of the conflict doesn't just happen here at the Planning Commission every time.
Randy Rice, city engineer for the record, and appreciate you bringing that up, Commissioner Perry. I do think it's appropriate to at least take this information back, and certainly I will work with our transportation department to bring these issues forward, and if there's something we can do, whether it's working with the sheriff's office or identifying something that makes sense from an engineering perspective, we'd be happy to evaluate those options and see, if there's a cost-effective measure for that. Something else I would point out in your packets, the applicant did meet the threshold for requiring a traffic impact statement, and they did perform those procedures to evaluate that. And while I won't say that there are no impacts because of this project, they were fairly minimal, and they only identified really 2 small areas that would just be at the threshold for needing those improvements. And the one that they did bring forward, staff did not feel like that was appropriate. And so while certainly we can't avoid all impacts, we do feel like this was appropriate for this project.
And I think in light of a half-street dedication, I think the curbs and gutters and sidewalks is a much better improvement. It's just almost like the sound wall on the other side. It begins in one place and eventually goes all the way down the street. If we can start this on Nye Lane, at least on the north side, maybe we can keep moving down the road. So thank you for that. Yes. Go ahead.
There's something else.
Well, we haven't resolved the issue of construction time. Mr. Commissioner Perry proposed 7 to 7 Monday through Friday, 7 to 5 on Saturday, and no Sunday.
Before my motion, I'll make a comment then on those times. By doing that, you're effectively extending the time of this project. So you just lost 2 days of work, so now they're going to be constructing longer. So I would suggest we keep it how it is and they finish the project as soon as possible and we stay consistent with kind of how we operate.
Okay.
But that's my comment.
Suggestion, Chairman, that we do go with the suggestion of the Sunday, give them at least 1 day off.
All right, then you get to make the motion.
All right, okay. I move to recommend the approval, tentative subdivision map SUB-2021-0211, based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval, with special conditions that they will not be operating on Sundays.
And the amendments in the staff memo of July 27th. Items 18, 21, and 31.
And items 18, 21, and 31.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. I think we're going to adjourn for about 5 minutes. I know you all have been here a long time, but so have we. So we'll be back in, let's say 1:45. I'd like to call the Planning Commission back into session. Item 13D. We don't do these all together.
Yes, can we please take D, E, and F all together?
All right, you want me to read them all? All right, item
Yes.
13D, discussion and possible action regarding a request for a special use permit to allow a 52-unit detached single-family residential development on 3.5 acres zoned neighborhood business plan unit development located at 1147 West College Parkway, APN 007-462-16 and 007-462-17. Then we have variance 2021-0232, discussion and possible action regarding a request for a variance to reduce the setback along the southeastern property line adjacent to the John Milkins Park on 3.45 acres zoned neighborhood business plan unit development located at 1147 West College Parkway, APN 007-462-16 and 007-462-17. And finally, item 13F, discussion and possible action regarding a request for a tentative subdivision map known as Silver Oak at College Parkway to create a 52 lots for attached single-family residences on 2 parcels totaling 3.45 acres zoned neighborhood business planned unit development located at 1147 West College Parkway, APN 007-462-16 and 007-462-17. All right, Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, again for the record. The project site consists of 2 parcels totaling 3.45 acres in size and zoned neighborhood business planned unit development. The applicant is seeking approval of a tentative subdivision map to subdivide the 3.45 acres into 52 lots for an attached single-family development with 25,266 square feet of common area open space. 2 points of access are proposed to connect to Oak Ridge Drive and West College Parkway, with the interior roads proposed to be privately owned and maintained. The project site is located within the Silver Oak planned unit development. Commercially zoned parcels within the planned unit development are limited to those uses outlined in the zoning code. Per the municipal code, a residential use is a conditional use in the neighborhood business zoning district and therefore requires a special use permit subject to the supplemental standards outlined in Division 1.18 of the development standards. These standards require a minimum setback of 20 feet when adjacent to a residential zoning district with an additional 10 feet for each story above 1 story. This would result in a required 30-foot setback along the southeastern property line adjacent to John Mankins Park. However, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow for a 10-foot setback adjacent to the park. There is no maximum density within non-residential zoning districts subject to meeting the height, parking, and open space requirements. The overall design concept is a single-family attached or townhouses with a lot size of 1,237 square feet. The lots would include all aspects of the building, including patios and porches. The applicant proposes 3 floors. Each unit will be 2-story and will range in size from 1,529 to 1,627 square feet. Private open space will be provided in the form of patios and porches for each unit with 25,266 square feet of common open space provided throughout the project. Parking is proposed to be provided via standard 2-car garages for each unit and 35 on-site guest spaces. On-site guest parking is required to be provided at a ratio of 1 space for every 2 units, which would require 26 spaces. As designed, 9 additional spaces will be provided. We did receive 31 comments from members of the public. They were provided to you as late material. For those that were citing concerns, the primary concerns included density, the setback along the park, traffic and pedestrian safety, parking, and noticing of surrounding property owners. Regarding the density, as I noted earlier, when considering a special use permit for residential use in a non-residential zoning district, there is no maximum density So the density is actually established with the approval of the special use permit. A traffic memo was prepared and determined that the thresholds for requiring a full traffic impact analysis were not met. And when I'm done, I'll pass it over to Stephen to discuss additional traffic issues. As I mentioned, parking was a concern, and the parking standards are being met with the two-car garage and then the 35 on-site spaces. This is consistent with Division 2, our parking standards. Additionally, the parking space size meets the standard details for a parking space. With regard to noticing, noticing was done consistent with NRS and City Municipal Code. Noticing was provided to 60 property owners within 600 feet of the subject site. The setback along the park. So as I noted, the applicant applied for a variance. Staff felt that they could support this variance because the intent of the increased setback is to protect adjacent residences. In this case, the actual adjacent use is a park. Staff is also recommending a condition of approval requiring a deed restriction be recorded at the time of a final map in order to disclose the project's proximity to the existing park and the inconvenience or discomfort, including but not limited to noise, glare, or physical activity that could result from living in close proximity to such a use. Setbacks adjacent to neighboring residences will remain at 30 feet or greater. The Planning Commission is authorized to approve a special use permit and variance upon making the 7 required findings of fact. The Planning Commission conducts a public hearing and advises the board if the proposed tentative map is consistent with the provisions of Municipal Code and NRS 278320. Staff was able to make the findings for all 3 of the applications in the affirmative and is recommending approval of the applications. I'm available for questions, and the applicant, Mark Turner, is here, as well as Chris Baker with Manhart Consulting, and they may wish to address the commission. But first, I'll have Stephen address any additional public comments he'd like to.
Thank you, Heather. Stephen Pote with Development Engineering for the record. So I wanted to address 2 items that the public brought up. The lack of a traffic impact study and also pedestrian safety. On pedestrian safety, West College Parkway and Oak Ridge Drive both have extra wide pedestrian pathways along them. They are both offset from the street by a landscaping buffer. And then there are also existing crosswalks at the intersection of West College Parkway and Oak Ridge Drive, as well as at Drysdale. With respect to the traffic impact study, as the commission is aware, there are triggers for when a traffic impact study is required. Those triggers are 80 peak hour trips or 500 trips per day. Those triggers were not met. There are times when staff will require a traffic impact study, even when those triggers are not met, if there are concerns about the level of service of a local intersection, especially if it would lead to a traffic signal, or if there's other safety concerns. In this case, the Transportation Department reviewed the transportation model, which includes volume capacity ratios. And the volume capacity ratios for this segment of College Parkway, it is 0.7, which loosely equates to a level of service C for these local intersections. So staff did not feel that it was necessary to do any further analysis based on that data. And with that, I'm open for any questions that you might have for engineering.
Are there any questions for staff? Stephen, you talked to me a little bit about the exit onto College Parkway being a right turn only. How is that
So
signified, or what? How does that work?
there's an existing median on College Parkway. That median will remain. So as somebody is exiting the project, they would have no choice but to make that right turn onto the.
And they can make a right turn into the project.
That's correct.
Off of that. Okay. Are there any other questions for staff? All right. How about the developer?
Commission, Chris Baker with Manhart Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. As you can see, I'm also joined by Mark Turner. I think Heather did a very comprehensive overview, and I know my slide deck's in there, and it's very similar looking to hers, so I'm not going to bore you with a redundant PowerPoint. But I do want to highlight a couple things. First and foremost, this is if you're familiar with the project site, it is an infill site developed on all four sides currently. It is unique in that we have the park to the south, to the southeast, and that park is zoned single-family residential. So that could be zoned open space, that could be zoned public facility, but this in unique circumstance, it is zoned single-family residential, and that's what is requiring this variance. I do know that variances typically are not something that we are requesting in front of this commission, but this unique circumstance, really what happens is reducing that required setback allows us to provide more parking internally, 9 stalls above code requirement, and nearly double the open space requirement, and allows us to provide that kind of in between the buildings and in that detention area. And we feel it really provides an overall better project. And again, the intent of those setbacks is to provide adequate spacing between existing residential units and proposed residential units. And in this unique circumstance, obviously the park doesn't have any residential units. So therefore, pushing those buildings to the exterior to allow for, what we feel is an overall better development, more parking, more open space, and then providing that recreational public facility immediately adjacent to the south for these residents ultimately to use is just kind of a great, unique opportunity. Another highlight regarding the master plan designation on this, it is high-density residential. It does have the neighborhood business designation. So the special use permit in front of you is to allow for residential in a commercial zone. So there was a lot of discussion in some of the correspondence regarding traffic and impacts. I know this commission's fairly well-versed in development and commercial typically, and provides for more impact as far as trips, average daily trips, peak trips. So from a traffic standpoint, allowing for this special use permit actually will, in a theory, reduce trips on those roadways. And then lastly was the tentative map. Again, there was discussion about apartments and other things of that nature. This is designed as a single-family attached product. Carson City is well in need, as most of northern Nevada, for housing stock of this nature. And we feel like we have a quality project, and we're seeking your approval. So thank you.
The recommended conditions of approval, including the amendment to number 19, are acceptable to you?
Yes, we have read the conditions, and we do agree with staff's recommendation for approval and all the conditions contained.
Okay. If I look at your site plan and I come into the project on Oak Ridge and I'm driving the snowplow, where do I push the snow? Do I push it down at the end of each one of these streets so those in garages are blocked?
The snow could go into the turnaround cul-de-sac, which also is adjacent.
But how do you get it out of that single lane driveway or that double lane driveway? Each one of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roads.
So they are open-ended, and there is adequate space at the end of those for back out, and again, in those unique times where you have snow removal.
All right, now let's play the same game with the waste management truck. He comes into the subdivision, turns right down that first walkway or that first section of houses, picks up the 5 on the right-hand side. Now he backs up, beep, 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 comes all the way out, pulls forward, then backs back in, beep, 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 to pick up all the 5 on the other side.
So we've done similar product type in Carson and another. Let me explain. So we do have to have a WILSR from Waste Management, and we actually work with that. So this could be a situation where there's not individual receptacles. There is one dump site, and they actually only pick up at one universal site. So and again, that's something that we do need to sort out specifically, and it's been handled various ways. So without following through as of at this stage, obviously this is something that is
Well, I'm
done
not
at a
here to
later
help
stage.
you redesign it right now, but I just,
I appreciate that. But yeah, that is something that there are various opportunities, and Waste Management has obviously has some say-so in that and what route they would choose to provide service.
okay. There are other questions for the developer? Mr.
Yes,
Perry?
I might as well get one in here. Actually, the one thing that I had here that I questioned on this is the variance, the 10-foot variance. And despite what you basically say about getting more parking, what it does is give you 4 more units to, the way I look at it there. But don't. But my question is, has Parks looked at this? Because there's basketball courts, there's a baseball diamond and so forth there. And that's going to be pretty darn close to the side of these people's buildings, that are there. Is it a safe distance to do that? That was my one question that I had there. Did Parks look at this and say, okay, this is adequate enough space so that we're not going to be hitting baseballs through people's windows and stuff,
So Parks has looked at the entire project. They provided us with comments. Their comments are included as conditions of approval as appropriate. They did not have any concerns with regard to the variance.
Okay, that was my question. So I just wanted to make sure that was looked at. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the developer or staff? Okay, thanks, guys. Comments from the public? One or two at a time. You all have been here now, you know the drill. Make sure you have a green light. I think that's it.
I'm not getting it. Have you got it? Yeah, okay, good. Go ahead if you're ready.
My name's John Munson, and I'm a resident of Silver Oak. I appreciate the fact that you addressed some of the safety concerns, but I really do not feel that you're addressing the root cause. As a resident of Silver Oak, I have witnessed and been part of multiple near misses. In fact, about a month ago, I had a near miss where I almost hit an elderly neighbor with my car. And the reason for this, there's really 2 reasons. The lack of light, proper lighting along that section of College Parkway, and just the overgrowth in the median and along the sides of the road. So I think before we go and increase traffic density, I think it is our responsibility to really address these safety concerns first. I know we haven't completed a traffic study, but any increase in traffic is going to increase the probability of a serious injury, the way things are right now. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Schnabel. I've been a resident of Carson City for 41 years, but for 5 years, I've been in Silver Oak. I live on Oak Ridge Drive, and the traffic there is already more than enough. This would just add to it. Oak Ridge is not a wide street. It has wide sidewalks, but it's not a wide street. If you park next to the curb, it's a very narrow area for driving on. So we have to consider that, I think, when we think about how many people are we going to add to the area. I don't understand. Apparently this has already gone through. If I heard you right about provisions for approval that you mentioned back in earlier, why has the person that owns this property, why have they not considered individual residential homes instead of condominiums? In the entire Silver Oak development, there's not one condo. They're all residential, and it's a beautiful area, and I can understand why people want to be there. But when you're adding that many people to a small area, that's a high-density area, it's going to add to everything in terms of traffic, in terms of noise, in terms of the park that we have is going, already you talked about Nye Lane, where are they going to go? That's our park. That's the one that you were talking about. So I would prefer, I don't know if it's possible, but I would prefer to see this like 20 or 25 houses rather than 52 individual condominiums, which adds a lot more people to the area. They don't, this whole area here, we got this letter from the developers, and basically it was a fear thing because they mentioned about the fact that it's zoned retail, but as a former business owner in this town, I can tell you that's not a good location for retail. So I don't think that argument holds up. If they want to build condos or if they want to build stuff like that, what are we going to do about the old Kmart building that's sitting out there? Just disrepair. The parking lot is atrocious. The building is falling apart, and nothing seems to be done about that. I think that should be somebody in the government of Carson City should be directing their thoughts to. What are we going to do about it? I don't have anything else to say other than the fact that I think that this is too many people in too small an area. And living on on Oak Ridge Drive, I can tell you right now, it's very, very crowded as far as the traffic and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll sign him. Go get me.
Okay. I'm sure everybody understands now, so if there's someone else that's going to want to speak, they can come sit in this other chair.
Okay. I'm going to ask for a touch of latitude. I'm going to do my best to, Scott Munson, resident of Silver Oak. I'm going to do my best to respect the 3-minute wishes that you've all laid forward. However, I'm going to try and ask for a bit of latitude because this is a very complicated matter involving a lot of different parts, such as a golf course, college, an elderly folks' home, a park. And so there's a lot of moving parts in the situation. So forgive me if I keep glancing at my phone. I promise you I'm not texting or anything like that. I've got some notes on here that I wanted to follow up on. I think earlier you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, that there was over 30 replies. Oh, I get excited. I
Take a
like to
deep
talk
breath.
about stuff.
It's all right. Okay.
No, I'm excitable.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. No, I get told that I talk too fast when I get excited. So if I start growing like, the Micro Machine Man, you tell me to dial it down a notch. But I think there was over 30 responses, I think was told, of the 600 feet notifications that went out, right? Do you happen to know how many total notifications went out in that 600-foot range? Because I would wager a guess that a good portion of people have probably objected to this project because the population density and the housing density is not very large in that specific area. So you're probably seeing the lion's share of residents saying no. And I'm guessing, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, that a lot of the feedback was not positive, saying, yes, let's start construction tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to respond to that, if you want me to just keep going.
We will take your questions, and then when we're
Fair
done,
enough. Then I'll
we'll
keep-
respond to everybody.
Thank you,
We're-
Chair.
so
Appreciate that.
It's not a give and take. You're in essence giving us testimony.
No problem. We respect the property rights of the owner. We absolutely recognize that when you buy property, you have the right to develop it within reasons. And that is one of the beautiful things about this country is that we can make things what we want to be. But I question whether this is the right application for this property, for this neighborhood. It was mentioned earlier that there was a letter that was sent out, and it was basically a scare tactic, that if we don't let this project go forward, that we might end up with a gas station or a liquor store or something along the lines there, which was completely inappropriate. We've got a vacant Walmart's or Kmart center sitting right there. That's the first thing people see when they turn onto College Parkway West, that and the Save Mart. As they go further up the road, next thing they're going to see is an elderly folks home. And then if this project goes forward, in one of our most expensive neighborhoods, the very next thing they're going to see is 52 homes on 3.5 acres. To put this in perspective, you all just approved the previous project that was brought before you, which was 16 acres, and I believe it was 61 or 62 homes on 16 acres. This is going to be 52 homes on 3.5 acres. That is a ridiculous population density. What we're looking at with homes like these are designed to bring young families in and give a more of an entry-level living style. I can appreciate the need for that. I am a firm believer that if you're not growing, you're dying. I am not saying we shouldn't develop them. I am not saying we shouldn't work on finding a solution that's equitable to the builders, to the lot owner, and to the community. But when you're talking about bringing young families in and what could potentially end up being rentals because you have a college up the road, if it ever develops into a four-year university or four-year college, you're going to have possible rental situations too. Not to mention with young families, you're more than likely going to have two parents working, which is more than likely going to bring in hundreds of cars, not 50, 60 cars. I've learned my first home I ever bought was in a townhome community almost exactly like this density. It was miserable. People had full-size trucks that wouldn't fit in the garages. These garages are slated to be 20 by 20. The average full-size pickup truck is over 21 feet long. Those are going to spill over into the excess parking, and what we're going to have is an overflowing park that's already at capacity. Every weekend, if you go out to John Mankins Park, every single spot is already full without this residence here. There's a birthday party going on, there's a baseball game going on, and there's not a single spot to be found. And we all know what happens when there's not adequate space to store things. It spills over into the area around it. And that's exactly what's going to continue to happen with this development, should it go forward with the current capacity that it's being suggested at. Let's see, during peak hours, when school's in session, College Parkway West looks more like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway than it does a street, because everyone's rushing to school between about 4:30 to 5, and then after class is over, around 7 p.m., it's another race down the hill too. There's not a lot of spaces to turn around on that road as well, and I'm really concerned that if this project goes forward, we're going to end up with a situation where we have such a huge population density that we're going to regret this. And finally, I think we need to be honest about what this is. This is a cash grab. This is the last piece of infill property on the south side of College Parkway West. The rest of that side is built out. It's continuing on the north side over on the hospital side of things, but this is it. You're talking about piggybacking on the property values that we all invested heavily into making into this nice community. I give credit to the builders. They built a nice product, they built a nice community, right? But we did business in this town belly to belly with the relationship with these builders that basically told us what kind of community we were gonna have. We were promised single-family homes, low-density housing, and most of us have sunk either our retirements or every red cent we've earned to this day for a young couple like myself to have a nice area where we can raise our kids, where we're not basically overflowing with people in a small area. So when you're talking about 52 homes, let's reverse the order of things. If we had these 52 homes sitting on that lot, and then the Silver Oak developments on Gentile and on Oak Ridge and Silverstream were the follow-on to that, would we have bought those properties? No. We would not, because nobody's going to buy what is now a $900, $1 million plus home in an area right next to a place that has high-density housing. That is not right. It's not fair. There is a solution here, and we can work on this. But please, I'm asking the commission, do not let this go forward and allow a situation like this to happen on the doorstep of one of the single nicest neighborhoods in Carson City it's basically feeding this town in a lot of ways. We've already had one house get listed for sale literally 4 days ago, and I believe it's the one that in the corner that backs up to the lot there. 4 days ago, that house went up for sale. You're already driving out residents with just even the prospect of this project being there. So I appreciate your latitude on this. I'm done. I'm hoping that we can find a resolution where we respect the property rights, let them build something that's reasonable, maybe a continuation of the same style that's on the other side of the park, and we can all move on with our lives, and hopefully they can make a few bucks. We can have a population density that works for all of us, and hopefully we'll get out of here sometime before tomorrow. Sorry for the time.
Thank you. All right, sir.
Hi, Jason Fatzer. I also live on Oak Ridge Drive. I live right across the street from the park. And a lot of the concerns that the previous gentleman has stated, we also have too. I understand that that's their property and they want to develop it as well, but we are concerned that there was no real traffic study done during the, we've been going through this pandemic, so the college has been closed, so we haven't had a lot of traffic going up and down the street. We have an old senior community right before that sometimes the gates close and they back up traffic, and right on the corner of Oak Ridge Drive and College Parkway, there's only enough space for 3 people to actually get into that turn lane to turn. And I've been, plenty of times, been backed up going almost to the Save Mart with the gate being closed to the elderly community and then down our street on Oak Ridge. Plus, if they build that many homes, it's going to attract a lot of younger families, like the gentleman said, and we're concerned because the park closes at night, 10 o'clock at night. I don't know how many times that me and my wife have had to call the police because of teenagers, whatever, drug deals going on. My neighbor to the south of me, his car was broken in because his garage is full of stuff and he has to park a car outside. What's going to happen when this community gets built and we have that type of population that comes in with, possibly teenager kids hanging out at the park where the police don't even come and patrol anymore? So we do have concerns about the traffic study, just like you can only make a right out of that. I mean, that whole island right there, your traffic's going to back up if this community goes through. You can't even make a left into it. So everybody's going to be making a left down Oak Ridge Drive. And we already have people coming 40 miles an hour down the street. And at one point, I don't know if it was this gentleman that came in front of my house about a year and a half ago. I don't know if it was him or not. But we don't even have, we have 2 little signs that people have hit multiple times that they've had to replace. A little black and orange sign with a little triangle cement. And people don't even see it and they smash into it. So it creates safety problems in our community. I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, you had a green?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My name's Harold Durrell. I live in Park Place. I guess I'm going to rehash some of what's been stated, but the overflow from the park comes into our common parking area on weekends. And people backing in and out of that park, it's dangerous. You can't drive through there without doing 5 miles an hour when it's peaking. I guess the other question I have, and on the traffic study aspect, I mean, there's like a threshold of units that has to trigger that, or incrementally, is that just each time there's a new increment put in place, is that not reaching the threshold to warrant the traffic study? I guess that's a good question. And in general, I mean, they've built a nice product in that area. But I guess I would say that if you lived next to that, how would you feel if it was your parents? What about the old folks in that old folks home? I mean, there's going to be a lot of hubbub in there. And property values, and probably enough said for me, but those are all concerns. We've all invested, I did, I'm sure everyone else, heavily to be in there. And I don't want a 45-foot warehouse put over there on that property, but, something could be done in there where they can make money. The format of that whole entire area, as it's being developed presently, is profitable to them, or they would not be doing it. So I'm not going to feel sorry for them. They've built a nice product. I appreciate them. And they're building nice neighborhoods in there. But I don't know why this needs to go to this extreme with this. First thing you see when you pull in, is going to be that. The curvature of College Parkway coming down from the college. There is no good view there. And you've got cyclists coming down there. Some are on the sidewalk and some aren't. You've got the curvature and the landscaping. You have to look a lot to be sure that you're not going to get in the middle of a situation and getting hit or hitting somebody that's not dressed properly after dark. So those are items, and I'll give the floor up to somebody else.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Michael Moriarty, and I live in Silver Oak community as well. And everybody up here has said pretty much what I think, and I think a lot of people think. I do want to compliment Mr. Turner. The Silver Oak community is a great community. But calling these single-family homes is like putting lipstick on a pig. This is just like Mills Landing. This is more of an apartment or condo complex than it is homes. And to echo what Scott said, the previous one you showed had 61 houses on 17 acres. Here you're putting 52 homes on 3.5 acres. And I would respectfully request that this stays in the same vein as the rest of Silver Oak. If you look at the map that was on the back of our notice, the size of this is approximately the size of Gentile Court, which has about 11 homes on it. So, I mean, this is a very large departure from the spirit of Silver Oak development, and we all take pride in our homes, and medium-density housing to be consistent with Silver Oak would be much better than high-density housing, and I will leave it at that. Thank you.
You got it. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name is Ann, and I'll be happy to give my full name to the
Just
reporter
be sure
later.
and sign in.
Yes, sir. So I just wanted to bring us back to something really that I wasn't clear on, which is why a zone that's zoned for business is being considered for residential. That, I think the person here might have spoken to it really quickly, but it was so quick and it was a little bit less clear than some of our other words that I was hoping that the commission could fill us in a little bit more on that. The other question I had was on the timing of the decision with respect to the Silver Oak development. It seems like the Silver Oak development, I don't know numbers, but just as a person observing, that it's still being developed and the traffic in the area is yet to really be determined with the side to the north of the parkway, if I'm getting the directions, where the golf course is. So I'm curious as to what the real true impact of traffic would be once all of those homes are built up and that section that is zoned for residential is complete. Also, I don't think it was mentioned, if my knowledge is correct, I believe there is no parking on College Parkway or Oak Ridge. And so that also affects the overflow of the parking issue. So I wanted to mention that for those who may not be aware. Let's see. I was curious if townhomes are required to have an HOA. I believe that if there was an HOA, there might be regulations with respect to noise, and that if an HOA was required, perhaps noise regulations could be required because there's a good possibility that these units, if they go forward, would be used as a kind of de facto college living and may possibly be noisier. Two more points. Price. I'm curious if the price range of these luxury homes will really truly meet the housing needs of the city, or if those who are in those needs are in that price bracket. I'm also finally want to just say that one of my personal concerns for a non-residential zoned property becoming residential is water usage in our area. And I think that zoning is one way that we can keep water usage down. And if there is building that goes forward, I would hope that the commissions or the various powers would make sure that there's low flow and water effective fixtures being mandated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi.
Did you sign in? I'm sorry.
Here, or is there one there? Okay. Hi, my name's Rita Sandoval,
And I'm just a year resident of Silver Oaks, and I moved in that area because of the quiet, peaceful place that it is, safe area of Carson City. So my concern is that with this development, is that all going to change? One, and two, the, like what everybody else here has said, the traffic, I believe that that is a grossly excessive amount of townhomes in such a small area. I don't want to be redundant to what everybody else said, but it's the previous one being 1,700 square feet or acres, and this being 3.4, and almost the same amount of townhomes. It's just not feasible. I just wanted to get on record so that you folks know that the Silver Oaks residents are very concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? You all are so well behaved.
Yeah.
Okay, I will sign this. My name is Jim Foley and living in Carson.
I don't think you're on
Do I push the button or wait?
till the green light comes on. There you go.
Good?
Go.
Okay. Name is Jim Foley. I've been a Carson City resident for 48 years. And I have know a little bit about this property since I've owned it for 17 years. But to give the board or the commission a little bit of a history on this, Garth Richards and Joni Richards donated this property, excuse me, to the Boys and Girls Club. And when I bought it from them, that's where the money came from to build the Boys and Girls Club. And I've had it for 17 years. It's a beautiful piece. There's probably no better piece of property in Carson City, to be honest with you. So I've been approached unsolicited by numerous people over 17 years for a lot of conforming uses. There have been, there's a supermarket. There's been multiple medical clinics. There's been high density. That's just some. It just goes on and on. And I've never been interested, and I told him so. And finally, just because it's getting to the point in time where I have to do something. I decided this way before I talked to Mark, or he talked to me, that I had plans ready to submit for this. And it was a conforming use, neighborhood business. And by the way, neighborhood business, that's, as long as I've owned it, it's been neighborhood business. Nobody's sneaking up with anybody on this. That land has been zoned for this the whole time. And I had a plan that I was ready to submit. And the only thing I can say is would be a lot more traffic, I can tell you that. And it would have been more lucrative for me. But when Mark approached me, I said, the reason I'm doing this is, Mark's doing all the work, so that's nice too. But the reason I'm doing it is because the trust that I think Mark and Garth Richards have earned, over this whole process. And I lived here when they developed Silver Oak. And there was a lot of opposition at that time to Silver Oak. And fortunately for all these people who live in Silver Oak, because Garth Richards at that time prevailed, they have this beautiful community they live in and these beautiful homes that Garth and Mark have built. I honestly think that on the way out, everybody in here ought to thank Mark for this, for their homes. But anyhow, there's always going to be opposition. And I think this is a beautiful product. And again, the reason I'm even in it, because that trust that they have built over all these years, that's a currency to me. And that's why I'm willing to really this is Mark's project. I'm going to let him run with it. But I'm happy to do it because I know it's going to be a beautiful project, like everything else he's done in Carson City. And, you know, you can say the density, it's not high density. Oh, believe me, I've been approached by people that want to do high density. This is less than 15 units per acre. I saw one was approved in town that was same size property. This is 52 homes. It was approved for 250 homes. That's high density. This is not high density by any means. This is just not, it's not what you'd consider a typical residential use, maybe neighborhood use. But that's not what you want in a city. You got to have some mixed use. And again, I've owned this property for a long time. Previous planning, committees, but the planner, city planner actually approached me and they encouraged me to do something like this because they didn't want Carson City, just this monolithic, single family, 12,000 acre or 12,000 square foot home. They wanted something like this because you need it. You can't have this, just everything the same. So anyhow, getting back, I had this thing designed, and so I will say this, that I backed off when Mark came to me, but if for any reason this doesn't go, then the other option is not to do anything. The other option is in 6 months, there's going to be ground broken on this project. Because again, I had it ready, and that's just the way it's going to be. So, and it's a conforming use. There's no setbacks, no special use permits. There's no variances required on the one I've got. So that's where we are, and I think you ought to be very happy. This is going to be a beautiful project, and I hope you approve it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask this man a question?
You can go out in the hallway and talk to him all you want. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Christine Nash.
Christine Nash?
Yes.
Thank you.
On the driveway on Oak Ridge Drive, will be right across the street from my grandbaby's bedroom. So the density concerns me. But, I agree with what everybody has said, but I do want to let you know that even now, on good weather days, weekends, people use the park so much. Oh, is it on? Yeah. Okay. People use the park so much that the streets are already filled with parked cars. I don't know if you're familiar with how narrow Oak Ridge Drive is, but if one car is parked there, there isn't enough room. You have to go over to the other lane to pass a parked car. And if there's two parked cars, it'll be a single lane road. The road is just too narrow. And other than the density, my concern is the guest parking on this unit. My other concern is if they try to park in front of our house, we don't have sidewalks. We have big rocks. The zero landscape. We have big rocks there. Somebody tries to get out of their car and park in front of our house, which again is right across the street from the driveway. So they're going to park there. They're going to break their ankles on our property, getting in and out of their cars. And there's going to be cars on the streets, parked on the streets. And Oak Ridge Drive is just too narrow and too much traffic to have cars parked on that street. And unless they have more parking on the property, they're going to be parking on the street. It's already happening. The street parking is already happening, and nothing is there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is George Nash. I also live directly across the street from the proposed project. It's too high density. It'll overwhelm the park. We were interested in a park on Nye Street, and this is the park that they use. The park is already, by the way, they aren't keeping very good care of the park. There's a lot of weeds everywhere. It's pretty shoddy, actually.
Y'all can adopt that park,
Cut down my taxes and I will. I'll buy a lawnmower. Anyway.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. They're just closing out a new development, would be on the east side of the park, directly on the east side of the park. I think built by the same people. It's a lovely place. It's a larger piece of property, and it has half the homes. I think that this will overwhelm the area, and I would like the developer to define for me open space. Because I heard the lady down there talk about thousands of feet of open space. I'd like for them to define for me what their open space is. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Heather, you want to take a shot at some of these?
I heard issues with traffic, pedestrian safety, density, questions about the noticing, the number of people that were noticed, the number of comments in opposition, parking, neighborhood business zoning, and why it allows for residential uses, and then the homeowners association and maintenance of common open space. So I'll let Stephen address the traffic and the pedestrian safety. And he might have to chime in a little bit on parking as well. So the density for this project calculated as 15.07 units per acre, so 15 units per acre. It is in the high-density residential master plan, which allows for 8 to 36 dwelling units per acre. So it's within the range of what's allowed according to the master plan. And as I discussed earlier, it's also allowed per the neighborhood business zoning. The special use permit sets the density. Noticing. So noticing was done consistent with NRS and or city municipal code. We noticed within 600 feet of the development. 60 notices were sent out. I didn't take a complete count of the number of comments in opposition. We did receive 31 comments, and I believe it was maybe about a 50-50 split.
It's like dueling letters. The letters are all the same and the
Right.
names are changed.
And I don't know if all of those folks were folks that received notices from us, or if they were folks that heard about the application and wanted to make comment. The neighborhood business zoning district. So the zoning code allows for residential use in a non-residential zoning district, subject to a special use permit. Neighborhood business is one of those zoning districts that allows for that. That's why they're coming forward with the special use permit in conjunction with their other two applications. A homeowners association or similar entity is going to be required for the common open space maintenance, as well as maintenance of the road and parking and all other common areas within the development. Parking. So our code lays out standards for parking. They're providing those on site. They're consistent with what the code requires, and they're providing 9 additional guest spaces beyond what's required. Stephen, do you have anything else to add to that, or anything else?
I do. Stephen Pote with Development Engineering for the record. So the other items that I heard touched on were the lack of street lighting, overgrowth of vegetation in the median, turn pocket length. With respect to the traffic study or lack thereof, the incremental effects of continued development, as well as lack of traffic during pandemic times. Then also Oak Ridge, the narrowness of that street with respect to the speed of traffic and parking. Traffic speed on College Parkway, and then backing out of the park spaces. So with respect to street lighting, this project will have to meet Carson City development standards. Street lighting is part of that. So wherever streetlights are required along their frontage, they would have to install those. The median is maintained by Carson City Parks and Rec. So we will certainly make them aware of that. I know I've personally seen them out there pretty often maintaining that median, so we'll make sure they're aware and they can take a look at it.
It's the sides too.
The sides.
That's where the near misses occur.
Gotcha. Okay, so we'll have them, we'll specifically ask them to look at the sides as well. The traffic study, so this is within the area of the overall Silver Oak subdivision, which there was an overall traffic study done for the entire thing in 1993. And as development occurs, we do traffic impact studies. So the city is aware of those incremental impacts as developments move forward that do meet those triggers. And as I mentioned before, we also maintain a traffic model to keep a pulse on what the traffic looks like. With respect to pandemic traffic and the reduction, our model accounts for the traffic from the college. So it would have included that additional traffic on the streets. See, the turn pocket on College is 100 feet long. The narrowness of Oak Ridge, again, that is in accordance with that tentative map. Silver Oak had specific street widths called out, so that does meet that standard. And part of that was the pathways I mentioned before, those extra wide pathways were also part of those approved street sections at that time to improve pedestrian connectivity. And then with respect to that, as well as backing out of those parking spaces, et cetera, I know the transportation department over the years has been aware of this and has looked at it closely. It was an issue that was brought up with Silver Oak Phase 21, which is just south of this next to the park. And at that time, I know the transportation department, with that subdivision, there's a stop sign at that intersection. And I mentioned traffic or speed calming implements, so that stop sign is actually kind of out into the travel lane to discourage speeding. So it is something the transportation department has looked at. At this point, they're not recommending any further mitigation in this area. And then again, on the speed on College Parkway, similar to the conversation we had with Nye, we would prefer to start with the sheriff's department enforcing the existing speed limit, and then if necessary, we can escalate it from there. So I think that covers all of the topics from the public comment. If you have any questions for me.
Heather, either you or Hope, or would you all together go through the tentative subdivision map process? One of the things we want to approve tonight, or is up for approval tonight, is a tentative map. I think it would be helpful for the people here to understand how that works and where it goes from here.
So the tentative subdivision map is submitted to staff reviews, and makes recommendation to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission then makes their recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. For this particular project, likely the map will be going to the August 19th board meeting. Though, because it's not considered a public hearing, no notices are sent out. So if you're interested in when this will be going to the board for final decision, you can always reach out to the planning division, and we'll get back to you and let you know what the status of that is. But
Yeah,
essentially,
that's assuming it passes tonight.
correct.
Okay. One or two other comments. Are there any other comments from? Go ahead.
My first question is for...
Is your mic on?
Yes. My first question is, do you know what the current density of the Sierra Place is? how many units there are within that project?
I do not.
There's 104. They're about 70%, 60% occupied.
Okay.
Two of us have members over at Sierra Place. We're well familiar with the hallways.
Okay. And, and then the other question is, would multifamily housing be permitted within the neighborhood business district?
Again, it would be through the same process. It would be a special use permit. So in the neighborhood business zoning district, single-family, duplex, and multifamily housing is their permitted uses subject to special use permit.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Perry?
Can I ask a question of the developer?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Turner. One of the questions I heard earlier was somewhere around the pricing of what these units were going to go for. Is that something you could share with this group at this point in time so people understand that these aren't dorms for college kids?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Perry, and I appreciate the question. As far as the pricing for these units, we expect these units to be upgraded units as compared to what one might envision when they're looking at an attached type of townhouse project, because both my partner, Sam Landis, myself, and the property owner, Mr. Foley, do have pretty high expectations and standards for quality of construction. With that in mind, given the extremely volatile market for building materials the last year or so, I don't believe we could produce these and bring these to market for less than $475,000 per unit right now. And that's as a result of lumber costs, building costs, and site improvement costs, much of which are dictated by regulatory type of standards. So that's where we're going to be looking right now. As a comparative type of figure, our units in Mills Landing that are single car garage units are now selling for between $420,000 and $440,000, and that has everything to do with the cost of building materials, the skyrocketing cost of labor, and what it takes to attract labor into a job site right now, and just the regulatory costs associated with code compliance and site development.
Thank you. And the second question is, because I couldn't find it in here anywhere, it probably is one of these drawings, but could you say something about what the screen walls or fences will be around this? And let's start with the east side at Sierra Place, because right now that's just a metal picket fence.
Correct. That is a metal picket fence, and I think that area of the development, as you see there's not a lot of adjacency to the actual building at Sierra Place. The adjacency you see there is closer to College Parkway, and that's on their entry drive lane as you approach the building, which is further in the back. So we'll work with them. I don't want to take down their metal fence if they want to leave it as such. But we can, work with them to decide what the best way is to handle that and the most aesthetically pleasing way to handle that. I do believe that along the park area, we'll want to enhance that fencing there, obviously at our expense, to create a little bit better, barrier in between the project and that area of the park. If you haven't walked through that flank of the park, it's not very walking friendly. There's really no path along that side of the park there. It's filled with 5 to 8 inch river cobble. The shade structure for the portable toilets is nearby Oak Ridge Drive, and the large backflow prevention device for the irrigation system for that park, as well as the irrigation controller, are along there. There's several large trees as you move down towards the skate park fixture, and then the skate park at the end, which has a number of trees and shrubs to the north of it, between that and where the buildings would be there.
And along the road frontages to the west and to the north?
Along the road frontages to the west and the north, we'll probably have some decorative iron style of fencing. We do want to create some privacy and some security so that, there is some protection from people walking up and down College Parkway at night, that they just can't walk right into the neighborhood there. So we will have fencing, and there has been some discussion amongst ourselves about actually gating the facility. That always has to be worked out with the fire department as to access and those subjects. So we'll discuss that with them as we get further along, but we definitely want to create some privacy and security barrier in between the walking right-of-way, if you will, and various entrances into and out of the neighborhood there.
So I do know the folks at Sierra Place are interested in talking about, because they were concerned about what's the fence going to be there, and because they have elderly residents there, one of whom is my mom. And I know
God bless her. I've known her for many years.
and I do know that that's a concern that they have, so I pass it on.
Yeah, that's something I'm certain we can work out with them.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yeah, my question's for staff. Just quick, when considering agenda items for approval, aren't we supposed to take into account if the project in question is a good fit for its nearest surrounding communities?
Yes, that's one of the findings that needs to be made.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I just lost it. I'm just kidding.
I said, yes, that's one of the findings that needs to be made.
We have to make findings in fact when we approve a project. That's one of the findings that the commissioner as individuals has to decide is significant or sufficient. All right? Are there any other questions? Anybody? All right, let's talk about it. Comments? Go ahead.
Commissioner Wiggins, for the record. When I saw this project, the first thing I saw was the entry and exit points. Living in that area, I know how busy college is, and so I just wanted to ask staff, I guess, we'll back up a little bit. The traffic model, does it take into account obviously the direction cars are going to go most likely? Most are not going to go to the college from this complex. They're going to go to Save Mart and the freeway and come in and out. So you're putting a lot of pressure on Oak Ridge, and I just want to verify this was taken into account.
So the traffic model is looking at the volumes on the existing streets, and from that you can extrapolate roughly what the level of service at the intersections are, and whether or not those intersections will operate at an acceptable level of service. So hope that answers.
Okay. I'm gonna put my nickel in a pot here. I think the special use permit's a wonderful idea. I just have a problem with the zoning change and the number of units and the mobility in the units. I spent a long time, 35 years, running large facilities and things like snow removal and trash and how the poor HOA has to operate a facility after the developer and the architect get done with it are always something that really bothers me. And I like the concept and I like the designs. It just doesn't snap yet. And I don't know how to get over that. You know, I think there needs to be more of a buffer with the playground, and I think the actual internal traffic of the project, if you could put the same or similar number of units in there, I think it would serve everything better than this design that's there, and that's what I'm wrestling with for you guys.
May I respond to that comment? Sure. I do appreciate your concerns for the logistics of the site. And that is the reason why we are going to have a standalone homeowners association for the purpose of taking care of snow events and also managing the waste disposal. These were things that we did think about. And if you have the experience in the facilities business, you understand that there's special types of processes and procedures you need for special sites, and these are, in my opinion, certainly not undoable by any stretch. I think that we can adequately address those concerns there and make sure that the snow removal and the waste disposal happens in a flawless manner. I do ask, if you have not walked that property line along the park, I think you should. I think you should walk around that entire park and get a feel for where the areas of activity are in that park. I consider myself an expert on that park because I built it under my contractor's license. And that was after a lengthy process of working with the Parks Department and having focus groups, and then enlisting the services of a landscape architect. I believe the man was Dan Kovac at CFA back in those days that designed that park. And when he designed that park, you'll notice that he took into account the existence of that commercial parcel that's to the north of it. And that is why there is virtually no usable elements of that park along that property line there. As a commercial piece of property, there was always the possibility that you would have a potential friction area in between the park and that commercial site. So as an architect, he designed that park so that there isn't much, if anything, along that line of the park. It's certainly not user accessible for at least 3/4 of the length of that property line, as can be seen by anybody who walks down that line. And if you do choose to walk it, be careful, because it's full of large river cobble that was designed so that people would not wander into that area. So I don't agree with you that there is an encroachment on the play area of that park. The play area is actually on the opposite side of this development. And again, this park was designed by Mr. Kovac to create an interior and integrated buffer zone along that line, knowing that there was a potential frictional use on the north side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
I've been a member and a owner in Silver Oak, since 2009, and I'm very familiar with this entire area. One of my concerns about Silver Oak, and when I chose to live in Silver Oak, was because it's one of the best places in Carson City, and I think that's really important. But one of the things that I've noticed about Silver Oak in this particular west side is we don't have any space for, we keep talking about little kids are going to be coming and living in this place. We don't have any place for, like, my mom who wants to retire. She wants to be close to me, but she certainly is not in the situation where she's ready for the care center next door. She doesn't want a lawn. She doesn't want to have to deal with decks and outside maintenance and landscaping and trash removal and all the other nonsense. She would probably like to get right in the middle of an HOA and run it. But I look at this and I think we have not, on this end of town, built any new apartments, any new patio homes, anybody for somebody like that. So when I look at this, you guys are looking at this going, oh, there's going to be so many people. I'm looking at this going, gosh, this is kind of an opportunity for some other people that are in transition, not just young families, people that are also empty nesters and downsizing. I look at the area that is right across from me over by Evergreen. Every one of those houses has actually appreciated in value. They're on smaller lot lines. They're almost zero lot line houses. And they're full. and they sell so dang quickly. And I mean, I've looked at it and I think, my gosh, if we had an opportunity to have something that was nicer, upgraded, safe, and in the same community where I could be there within 5 minutes, I look at that as something that's a real plus. So that's what I'd like to say.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond to her comment?
Go ahead.
Terry, I wanted to thank you for that comment, and just to give you an idea of the type of demographic that we believe is going to be attracted to this product. I don't believe we're going to find a lot of families looking for an attached townhouse at $475,000 to $500,000. I think families with younger children who have that budget may be looking for something that's a little bit more versatile for them. We were slightly surprised at Mills Landing by the demographic that has really chosen that product and moved in there. Those are two-story homes, and the master bedroom is on the second floor, yet I have a tremendous number of former firefighters, former police officers, government employee retirees, many of them single and a few of them couples, that have chosen that type of product to live in. So amongst that group, you may have some park users, but I think it's important to remind everybody that the vast majority of the users at John Mankins Park are coming from outside of Silver Oak. There's multifamily to the east of Carson Street, and it's, hundreds of units over there. And there is a tremendous amount of traffic coming from those areas to utilize the Mankins Park, and that's completely fine. Anybody who lives in Carson City has the ability to utilize a park. It's not the park's fault that it was well-designed and has attractive elements that create the desire to use it. However, it is a smaller neighborhood park, and as with all public facilities, they are designed to meet a certain service level. If they become overused as a result of popularity, that's maybe a design flaw, if you will. There's other parks in the area. There's Carriage Square. There's the park over in Kings Canyon. They're popular parks on the west side of Carson City, and they're accessed by all residents of Carson City. So I think that to represent that the potential residents of these units, should they be approved, are going to create an overflow burden onto that park, I think is it's a narrow type of judgment, and it's not really looking at the overall picture accurately. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Is there a motion? How do we do this? One at a time or all together?
One at a time.
One at a time, yeah.
Yes. So either the variance or this special use permit first, followed by the variance or special use permit, and then the subdivision, tentative subdivision map.
All right, well, let's go ahead and start with the special use permit. Is there a motion to?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
All right, thank you.
I move to approve special use permit LU 2021-0218 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval as outlined in the staff report.
All right, is there a second? I'll second it. All right. Commissioner Preston seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. One nay.
That'll work.
One nay?
One nay.
Kilgore for the record.
All right, variance.
I'll keep going.
All right.
I move to approve a major variance VAR 2021-0232 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
All right, is there a second? All right. Commissioner Preston seconds. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
3 noes. I'm a no. So it fails, right? It's 3-3.
Motion fails. Can we do a roll call vote
Yes.
so I can get it?
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Chair Borders?
No.
Okay. Vice Chair Wiggins?
Yes.
Commissioner Eswine?
No.
Commissioner Kilgore?
No.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Preston?
Yes.
So yeah, we have 3 noes and 3 yeses.
That's not a pass, is it?
So that's not a pass because we don't have the tiebreaker.
Okay.
Mr. Chair? For the benefit of the record, would somebody who voted no explain the no so that if this does go on appeal, the board would have some guidance
Sure.
on why you made your decision?
I made my no decision on the variance because I just, even though I agree with what you say, I just think that's too close. If there were 4 less units in this project, it would be a home run to me. I just think it's just too close. Commissioner Kilgore, your turn.
I just simply don't think that it suits the community, so I can't vote for it.
Okay. Swan?
I voted no because I don't believe that it meets the criteria for a variance.
Okay. Tentative subdivision map. Can we still approve that?
I'm not sure. Can
So
you?
I think you need a recommendation on it going forward to the board.
Say what? Yeah. How about 5 minutes? We'll figure out where we go from here. Hope, do you want me to do this or you want to say something? All right. On the tentative map, let me find. I'd like to make a motion to approve the tentative map SUB 2021-0215 to the Board of Supervisors based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report with our recommended change of 48 units, not 52. Is that,
Mr. Chair, are you recommending a unit count or are you recommending that the project comply with the setback requirements.
I think, I'm thinking, we're asking for the requirement to meet the
Right.
setback requirements. Okay,
So I think you're recommending approval, and you're adding a condition that the project shall comply with the setback requirement vis-a-vis the property line with the park.
that's exactly what I said.
Hope,
Mr.
can you
Chair?
repeat the motion?
It's as written in the staff report with the recommendation for approval, subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report with the additional condition that the setback requirement along the property line that's shared with the park, the setback will be met.
Thank you.
That's my motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we add the modifications to condition 19 as outlined in the
And
July
the
27th
modification of
memo?
condition 19 is modified. You're correct. So those two changes. Is there a second? Commissioner Swine seconds. Any further discussion?
Yes, just one question so that I understand. So we approved the special use permit.
Yes.
We did not approve the major variance, so that's unapproved. And this is the tentative subdivision map. And it basically, with those conditions, says it's 48 units because there's no 10-foot variant, 30-foot to
Well,
10-foot
it
variance.
doesn't necessarily, they can do whatever they want to. All we're saying is we just leave the variance alone. There's no variance. We can approve the tentative map with 52 units in it.
The motion, as I understand it, given that the variance has failed, or not succeeded, either way, what I'm hearing the chairman say is that he's suggesting that this tentative map can be approved, however, it must meet the required setbacks. It will be up to the developer and his team to look at that and come up with something that's substantial, and we're not dictating what that unit count is. It can't be more than the 52, because that would have to come back to you. But they can look at how they can achieve the setback and figure that out. But they have to meet the setback, is what I'm hearing the chairman
Okay,
say.
understand.
And that was seconded by Commissioner Eswine. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just quick, does that mean they would have to we'll be back in here again for the same thing, or?
Not necessarily.
Recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So this has to go to the Board of Supervisors. They make the final decision. What you're doing is you're giving guidance to the Board of Supervisors on how you suggest they vote.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion
No.
carries. One no.
Commissioner Kilgore, no?
Yes. Okay. Yes, you may. Turn your mic on.
This is a general comment, and I understand what everybody's concerns are, and but I'd just like to say that, you know, we have a zoning code and development standards that have been in place for years. And this project, with the exception of the variance, complies with those standards. And that's what we are charged with doing, is reviewing the standards and making sure that a project complies with the standards. With that said, I would encourage you to participate with the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors in our current review of the development code. If you are upset with portions of the development code, we need to know it. We can't, you know, we don't operate in a vacuum. And I, for one, would really like to have some more public input in our development code.
If anyone would like to participate, if you'll call the Planning Division of Carson City, or you can email planning@carson.org, just say, we want more information, we will follow up with you. So again, planning@carson.org is the email, and we're happy to follow up with anyone interested.
Okay. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last board meeting, they approved the tentative map for Longview, and they also adopted a resolution relative to growth management. For future agenda items, you'll have the application for growth management that wasn't properly noticed for this evening. That will come to you at your August meeting.
Okay. Hope, can you hang on a second?
Yes, I can.
It got pulled. We posted it incorrectly. Okay, thank you. We got everybody moving.
No, it gave me a chance to ask Heather what was coming up. So that was good. Okay, so what's coming up is we have a house over, it's existing on Sutro Terrace, but it's zoned for commercial, master planned for industrial, or zoned limited industrial, zoned master planned for industrial. It's just kind of an oddball. So it will be a master plan amendment and a zoning map amendment over there for that house on Sutro. Lampa specific plan, they're looking to amend the specific plan relative to the number of units before they have to connect to William Street.
Up or down? More units,
More
less?
units before the connection.
Okay.
We also have the growth management that you were going to have on your agenda today, but wasn't properly noticed, so I apologize to you and definitely the applicant on that. We'll bring that back to you in August. Empire Ranch Golf Course, I'll plan to give a report out. I'm not prepared to give a report tonight. And we have a special use permit at Mercury Cleaners. NDEP is doing a cleanup there, but since it's in the downtown, they're not going to be meeting all the downtown mixed use standards because it's essentially a groundwater cleanup project. So that will come to you for a special use permit. And then I will have public comment.
Okay. Commissioners, comments? All right, the public is invited at this time to comment on or discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Planning Commission, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda. Is there any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to request that
Please
when...
identify yourself.
Oh, my name's Ann Gray. I'd just like to request that when citizens come up and write their names on this, that after that portion of the process ends, that they be removed, because I notice that the developers come and they look at least in this case, they looked at all the names. And I think that given that there was pushback to the case with the last 52-unit development, that there was a letter from the developer, it seems like, that went out with discontent with respect to citizens notifying each other by letter, that I think as a citizen I felt more vulnerable to the developers. I just felt more vulnerable to speak out. And so I just think that that might be a nice part to add to your process so that people's names can be confidential. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I have public comment.
Okay.
So we know Lee Plemmel retired, and I was promoted.
You see he won the golf tournament?
We know what he's doing with his free time. And Heather was promoted to planning manager, and then we had to find a planner. And it wasn't easy, but we reached out to Heather Manzo, who's in the audience, who has 15 years of experience. She's worked with the city of Reno, the city of Sparks, with NDOT, and we sold hard, and we got her to agree to join us, and we're so thrilled she did. So she's in her second week with us, hitting the ground running, and she sat through your meeting, which was longer than most. We have to tell her that. And yeah, so we're just thrilled to have Heather Manzo join us. And Heather,
So it's an all-girls crew, right?
Yeah, that's what it took to get the right people.
Okay. Heather, would you like to say something? You know the drill now. Press the button, make it green.
Good evening, I'm Heather Manzo, and I'm very eager to be working with you and the planning staff here at Carson City. Hope did a wonderful introduction, so I don't need to say much more than what she's already mentioned, but I am very happy to be here with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome to our zoo. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right.
Okay, just a question is that when somebody comes in and speaks on a public meeting and they sign in, isn't that supposed to be transparency and everybody has to see it anyway?
It's public
So
record.
that's public record. So, I mean, I just wanted to put that out because I think that people need to know that when they do come up and they do state their name and they do write it down, that it's available to everybody.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?